Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Bakari Lumumba, back once again, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Back once again with part two. Do apologize that it took us some time to get to part two. As you all know, the first show that we did on this particular topic, we discussed the concept and the idea of unpacking patriarchy in pre-colonial Africa, medieval Africa. And now we're back with part two. Are Black men patriarchal to gain proximity to whiteness? Once again, family, the link is in the chat. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, subscribe, like, and share. So we're going to have this conversation, right? And I'm going to tell you why we're going to have this conversation. As you all know, work in higher education. And there's a particular theme or a current, a thought that argues that Black men are patriarchal. In fact, I went to a Black male conference at an institution that will forever remain nameless that stated that made the argument that Black men are patriarchal because they had adopted the ideology of what are oppressors, right? Now, if you watch part one of this show, part one, Unpacking Patriarchy in medieval Africa, we know that that's not true. Medieval traditional African culture, what we mean by traditional African culture, we're talking about African culture, independent of European and Arab influence, was patriarchal in nature. But there's some things that I want to unpack in this concept of are Black men patriarchal to gain proximity to whiteness? And if you're with us, family, hit the subscribe and like button. And before long, of course, I will put the link in the chat. The link is also in the description if you want to tap in. The link is in the description. But a couple of things. So Dr. Farah Jasmine Griffin, right? She's a professor of African American literature. She got a PhD from Yale. Shout out to the Ivy League, right? And she wrote a book chapter in a book entitled Sisters in the Struggle, African American Women in the Civil Rights Black Power Movement. This is the book here. I don't know if you're able to see it very well, but this is the book here, Sisters in the Struggle. And she wrote a chapter in the book, and she talked about, it's entitled Malcolm X, the Ironies. It's titled Malcolm X, the Ironies of the Saint, Malcolm X and the Price of Protection. And in the book chapter, she talks about how Malcolm X sought to protect Black women. We know Malcolm X said that the most disrespected, the most abused, the most harmed woman in America was the Black woman. And she goes in and really seeks to deconstruct that and argues that Malcolm X's form of protection was problematic because in order to be protected by Black Malcolm X and men of his ilk, particularly during the time he was in the Nation of Islam, you had to subscribe to ascribe to the values and, of course, behavioral expectations of the Nation of Islam. So that's one thing that we can unpack. Secondly, I would be remiss to my duty if I didn't mention this. We know Queen Mother Fannie Lou Hamer taught us to never forget where we come from and always praise the bridges that carried us over. So there are two bridges that I have to praise today that go in line with the Black radical tradition of audacious self-assertion. And that is Queen Mother Ida B. Wells Barnett, who was born, of course, in Mississippi, 1862, Holly Springs, if I remember correctly, Mississippi. And then, of course, that was yesterday. And then yesterday as well, we had Queen Mother Assata Shakur, age 76, still living as a political refugee in Cuba, right? So we want to make sure that we never forget where we come from and always praise the bridges that carried us over. And we want to make sure that we always honor our revolutionary sisters in the struggle. So once again, we want to make sure that we do our due diligence and give honor and praise to our great ancestor, our esteemed ancestor, Queen Mother Ida B. Wells Barnett, who we know was an Africana womanist. I would dare say that. I will put that out there. Then we also know that Queen Mother Ida B. Wells Barnett was a crusader against, of course, lynching. We know that she unfortunately was present when one of her good friends, a brother who owned an African American grocery store that was outperforming the white grocery store in Memphis, was lynched, unfortunately, and that led her to have that clarion call to advocate for, of course, the rights of African American and to push back against the racist and bigoted, racist and gendered concept of Black man having being sexually insatiable, having this kind of congenital desire to abuse white women and attack them sexually. So I want to make sure we definitely give a shout out to Queen Mother Ida B. Wells there. And of course, we know we have to give love to Assata Shakur, a member of the Black Liberation Army, a member of the Black Panther Party, someone who truly believed in always better than black, a member of that Black radical tradition. I always argue that her memoir, let me see if I could grab it very quickly. I think I have my daughter checking it out. Oh my goodness, I don't know if I could grab it. Oh, here we go. Her memoir right here, Sada, right, an autobiography, I argue, is the Black female equivalent of Malcolm X's autobiography. So I'm gonna say this one more time. I believe, and this is my personal opinion, right? I've read, of course, Assata several times, that Assata Shakur's autobiography is the Black female radical equivalent of Malcolm X's autobiography. So if you have not read her memoir, her autobiography, please do. I think you are doing yourself a grave disservice if you have not read Assata Shakur's memoir, right? So definitely want to make sure that you do that. And I think I have some literature on Ida B. Wells on that as well, but not going to grab it. Let's see here. Not going to grab it, but yes, just want to make sure that we're always highlighting the sisters in the struggle. So that's part of the issue that I want to make sure I covered. As you all know, the ground rules are diversity of thought is welcome, right? You could be right, left, right down the middle. There's no problem here. Once again, no racial epithets of any kind. This is a site of Black empowerment. We believe in the 3 N's of Black power: self-respect, self-defense, and most importantly, self-determination. No fundamentally false statements, right? You can have whatever perspective that you want, but I don't allow individuals to come on my platform, on my channel, and make claims that are patently false, right? I think that's disconcerting, is unbecoming, and of course, it reflects poorly on me to have a platform in which I allow individuals to do that. And then, of course, last but not least, facts over feelings, right? So we want to make sure that if someone does provide a dissenting opinion, as some of my students did today in class, right, when we had a conversation about reparations, and you can imagine that was rather heated, right? But we want to make sure that we attack the argument and not the person. So no ad hominems, no straw man arguments. We want to make sure that we're attacking the argument and, of course, not the person. And then last but not least, as you all know, our mission here at Lumumba Speaks is neither to exonerate or vilify, but to challenge conventional wisdom and re-examine what has been previously accepted as fact. And so with that being said, if we're going to open things up, I'm going to put the link in the chat. And then definitely we want to have a conversation regarding our Black man, patriarchal to gain proximity to whiteness. There is a what is patriarchy in this context of discussion. Appreciate Trevor Prime tapping in and asking that question. Patriarchy is the concept, the idea, and the practice of men being in positions of power, men being the ones who are in authority. The men are the ones in authority, right? So many have argued, particularly from a feminist perspective, that Black men are seeking to be patriarchal because they're looking to emulate white men. This is an argument that's typically made by feminists, intersectional feminists, right? The like, and this is something that is oftentimes promoted in the realm of higher education. So in higher ed, I wouldn't say it's promoted, but this is something that oftentimes is stated. So we want to unpack this. I would argue that it's false. As we said it before, back on the 25th, we did a show on unpacking patriarchy in medieval Africa. I was able to find that patriarchy was the norm in terms of the societal expectations and values throughout Western Central Africa prior to, of course, the Ma'afa or European incursion onto the continent, and prior to, of course, many would argue the Arab Muslim invasion of African religious and values, right? So we can have a contemporary conversation regarding part of it is, of course, this concept of Kevin Samuels. Many people argue that he was misogynistic. Many argue that he had a very Eurocentric worldview, which I agree with to some point, but it doesn't change the fact that there were some times that he made claims that I agreed with, that I think were spot on and accurate, factual in nature. And we can unpack that, right? This concept of our Black man patriarch, or Black man seeking to be in positions of control, in positions of power, because they're simply trying to emulate white men and whiteness. So that's the argument that some have made. And so we're definitely looking for brothers and sisters to tap in and be part of the conversation. Once again, the link is in the chat. The link is also in the description. Also, the link to my Medium account is in the description as well. I definitely want you all to make sure you go in there and go into Medium, put in your well, actually, it's not on there, so I will put it in the chat. Go in and subscribe and follow me on Medium. That would be greatly appreciated. Uh, but this is a conversation we're seeking to have, so I definitely want you all to tap in and be part of the conversation as we discuss um, this concept of define, gain proximity to whiteness. So yes, Brother Mufasa has argued. Haven't seen you in a while, brother. Glad you're here. Hope you can tap in. So many have argued, right? And this is coming from a feminist frame of reference, right? That black men engage in patriarchy because they're seeking to gain proximity to whiteness. But the idea of gaining proximity to whiteness is the belief that if one emulates white people and white culture, they will somehow gain the privileges that white people have in this society, right? So a good example would be that we see some individuals who would say, Sister Shy, how you doing today? Appreciate you, sister. Hope you could tap in. So we see some individuals who would try to gain proximity to whiteness by, hey, if I live in a predominantly white community, if my children go to a predominantly white school, if I go to a multicultural predominantly white church, as some people call salt and pepper churches, right? Or if I marry white, right? I'm gaining proximity to whiteness, and therefore I can become what some would argue an honorary white person, and therefore I will be able to gain the privileges of a white person in this society, right? So, but in getting closer to them, yes, in terms of gaining the privileges that they have by engaging in said behavior, right? So we see this. So that's what we mean by that proximity in the ideological sense, right? Not in terms of the physical sense, but from an ideological sense that if I take on these type of values, right, that are considered white middle class, then I would gain acceptance, and as a result, gain preferential treatment, and oftentimes hope that there's a hope and desire that one would gain the same level of privileges that one had as the white community has in America. So that's what we mean by proximity. So we mean proximity from an ideological sense rather than a physical sense. You state, isn't that separate from emulating them without getting close to them? Yes, but once again, as I stated, we're talking proximity from in an ideological sense, not a physical sense. So this is a little higher ed jargon here, but that's what we mean by proximity. But once again, family, the link is in the chat. Make sure you tap in. I also put the link to my Medium account. So love for you all to tap in. Follow me on Medium. I will be publishing on a regular basis on Medium. You do not have to. It's free of charge. Right, to tap in. The link is there. Right, so make sure you follow me on Medium, free of charge. You can tap in at any time, family, and I would love to have a great conversation regarding this concept of black man patriarchal to gain proximity to whiteness. As I said it before, there was a situation in which I was at a men's conference where there was an individual who actually made that claim that black men had taken on the ideology of course, our oppressors, and that was patriarchy. I shared with him. I mean, obviously, this individual was not knowledgeable of African history, Black history, and so I shared with him that that was historical in nature. And he even argued that we should all become feminists. I said, but feminism was something that was created by white folk, right? So what are we talking about here? And so they ended up actually shutting the conversation down because, unfortunately, they felt that I was sharpshooting his actual his speech, right? That's not what I was trying to do, but the fact that he was just making claims that were ahistorical and patently false. And as you all know, you've been on my show quite a while, that I take extreme umbrage with people making claims that are patently false. So with that being said, family, the link is in the chat. Definitely want you all to tap in and share. Put a 1 in the chat if you've heard of this concept of proximity to whiteness. Black people in particular, and other people of color seeking to gain proximity to whiteness. And you can put a 2 in the chat if you have never heard of this concept of seeking to gain proximity to whiteness. And once again, proximity from an ideological frame of reference, meaning if you take on or ascribe to the values of the dominant group, then you will be able to gain the privileges of the dominant culture, right? And I think we see that a lot. So Absolutely. So Brother Trevor says he's heard of it before. Brother Mufasa said that he's heard of it before. So that's appreciation. Hope you all could tap in and share your perspective, particularly on this conversation. A lot of people had argued that Kevin Samuels was extremely patriarchal, and as a result, he was trying to emulate white men. But we do know that patriarchy is the norm throughout um, world history and civilization. You said you haven't heard of it in the ideological sense, though. Okay, that's love. I think that's part of the reason why we're having this conversation. Oftentimes, that's what tends to take place in higher ed. I've seen this before, where individuals try to take on gain proximity from an ideological sense, in hopes that one would gain the privileges that whites have in said society. Um, so there's something to be, of course, cognizant of there. But brother, I'm gonna let you tap in. What's the word, bro?
My mic together. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay, cool. No, yeah, I was saying I heard of white proximity in terms of people being around them. I think
Right.
the first time I heard the term, it was someone juxtaposing African Americans to Caribbeans or Africans on the continent,
Yes, sir.
and they were pretty much talking about how our white proximity gave us more access to just a lot of things, and
Right.
I understood, I
Absolutely.
agreed
Right.
with that.
And I'm sorry. Go right ahead. You
No,
said
I
you
was just
what?
gonna say I agreed with what they were saying. You know, you being there, like same thing you could say about South Africa, same thing you could say about like these places where you're living with them. So that white proximity gives you there's more wealth where you are. There's less,
Hmm.
less things you're doing are well, they're still disrupting things, but it can
Right.
be a lot worse. And yeah, I would
Right.
say still disrupt a lot, but you still at least there's a lot of things that because you're right here next to them.
Right.
You're in their military. You're working these jobs. So that was my only. I never really heard it used in terms of. Is that me? Oh, that's you. I never
Yeah.
really heard it used in terms of ideology.
Okay. Got you. Okay. Yeah, and so that's one of the things, right? Oftentimes, if you talk to individuals in the FBA who are FBA, right, they would argue, no, that's not true whatsoever. And then you're being disingenuous. You live in the country, you're going to benefit from the things that they're doing just simply because you live in a country. And that's another form of what we call proximity. That would be proximity in terms of what we would argue the industrialization of the society, right, as a result of that. So I think that's a great point that you made. I think anyone who's being honest would have to admit that yes, this is a situation in which, you know, like it or not, we benefit from having that proximity of living in a first world country. Absolutely.
I think the thing about this conversation, I think the waters get muddied because I don't think so when we talk about black people,
Hmm.
almost no one knows pre-colonial African history. Like almost no one in this conversation has any level. I'm not going to say any level, but a very low level understanding of pre-colonial African history. So we could be doing things, and they could have been done. They could have been being done in West Africa for millennia. But how do you know if you've never studied it, right?
Right. And you know
So
what? I'm glad you brought that up, brother, because when we did our show on the 25th, that's something that I mentioned, right? And we talked about, that, pre-colonial, well, I prefer the term medieval. I don't like to discuss and talk about African history in the context of it being rooted or in proximity to or around European encroachment on the continent. Um, but I said you find that what the cultures were extremely patriarchal. And one example would be if you ever get a chance to read the interesting narrative of Alala Equiano, right? He talks about, and growing up in Igbo land, that the society was extremely patriarchal. He even talks about how there was a law saying that if a woman committed adultery against her husband, the sentence was for her to be put to death, right? But that wasn't the case for the men, right? And I always tell people, we tend to romanticize African culture and say, oh, it was matriarchal and so on and so forth. It's not the case because no woman no group of women anywhere in the world, I would dare say, will go out into the world and say, you know what, we're going to create a law saying if we cheat on our husband, they could put us to death. We could be put to death. But if they could cheat on us, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I mean, they say that there's a lot of laws that men have made that they put themselves to death. I mean, where men get put to death just playing the white man's advocate. Men have made laws that put men to death. You see what
Right,
I'm saying? Yeah, but I see your point anyway. Like
right.
I said, I'm just kind of just like I said, playing the white man's advocate.
Oh, that's quite all right. White devil, like white, white devil. I say that all the time. I say white devil advocate, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, I don't know if they're saying that men are trying to be like white men. You know, it's interesting because in some aspects you can see that, but I don't know. I just don't see how can we say that our actions are being informed by trying to be white men.
Well, and here's the thing, right? And I'm glad you brought that up. This is what I've seen. This is what I come across is that individuals, particularly of the ilk, right? Individuals who are the mindset that black men are seeking to be what? Poor imitations of white men. Only said it about black men who are masculine and assertive.
Oh, so
If
you
you
think it's
are,
like
if
a
you have,
shaming tactic?
yeah, if you have a passive mindset, if you are a beta male, right, you have a B type personality, if you're very feminine and weak and docile, you're the best thing since sliced bread. I've seen this person. Now, this is anecdotal, but I've worked in higher education for over a decade at a number of different institutions. This is the actual current that you will find.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like when they talk about patriarchy, it's essentially when does this come up? This comes up when men say that they don't want women to do something or they want to restrict women from some type of behavior, right? So now you get thrown, now you're patriarchal, right? And this never happened in Africa, but it happened everywhere. The only place it's not happening, this is a brand new phenomenon. I mean, it's happened before, but I just, well, in fact, when has it happened before where women are just allowed to do what they want, with very little accountability? I don't know. If it's happened, I don't know about it,
Right.
because most of the time there's been accountability for women. So I don't know if that makes you patriarchal or wanting to um, copy white men. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it's
And
like how are we determining this though? Because okay, so if we're in a system where white men kind of set the standards, they give out all the jobs, and I'm doing what it takes for me to succeed in the system. Is that me emulating white men, or is that me trying to survive as an American or a British or whatever I am, whatever country I'm in?
right. So I think that's a great question that you asked there. A great question, and I think it speaks to what you talk about, a shaming tactic. That if you aren't engaging in said behavior that I want you to engage in, then I'm going to somehow try to frame your behavior as not only being problematic but being rooted in trying to emulate an oppressor.
Right.
And it's one of the things I always tell people is that oftentimes, if you study cross culturally, there are certain behaviors that you're going to find across cultures,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I said we are human beings, right? There are cultural differences. I understand that. I'm not saying that there aren't. We all know that there are, but there are some things that we have in common as a people. And
Right.
one example would be is that in many societies, different racial ethnic groups practice ancestral veneration.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if we honor our ancestors, are we trying to be like white folk just because they do it as well? If we canonize our freedom fighters, are we trying to be like white folk because they canonize them as well? Theirs? No.
Right.
Some things are just what? Part of what? This is what human beings do.
Right. But that I guess I would need someone to put an argument forth
Mhm.
to understand what they mean by that, and I would need them to kind of, it's like, okay, give me an assertion that shows where it is what we're trying to do is white, and how do you mean by what do you mean by it's white? How are you determining what's white and what's
Mhm.
not? You know,
Right.
that's what
And,
I would
and,
really
and
need
and
to
part
know.
of that, brother, is we tend to find a lot of individuals associate patriarchy they conflate patriarchy with what?
Whiteness.
Misogyny. With misogyny. And
Yeah,
so the
that
opposite is what's inferred is if you're being patriarchal, you're being misogynistic. We can
right.
say we can make the argument that European culture was patriarchal and extremely misogynistic, but we can't make that argument if you actually, as you stated, if you know, if you're well read regarding what patriarchy in traditional African culture. In traditional African culture, brothers and sisters, is African culture independent of European and Arab influence.
The word misogyny is that's kind of misunderstood too. You know what I mean? Because some people would say if you're trying to tell women what to do, that's misogyny. You know what I
Right.
mean?
So yeah, people use it. And so that's the big issue, right? We talk about people making up their own definitions, trying to make a word what they want it to mean rather than what it actually means, right? So I think you have a good point there, right? In terms of misogyny. Of course, misogyny means the hatred of women, someone who hates women. So,
Right. Yeah. Because
but providing authority, providing leadership, and you have a daughter, right, brother?
yeah, I do.
And I have a daughter as well. How old is your daughter?
14.
All right, mine is 13. Lord have mercy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, you know what I'm talking about. um, but I had to go to court, right? And the lady in the court was like, "Hey, do you think it's right for you to tell your daughter to do things that she doesn't want to do?" I said, "Absolutely. That's part of being a parent. Go to
Yeah.
bed,
What
clean
are you
your
supposed to
room,
do?
do your chores, eat your groceries, do your homework. Those are all things the child doesn't want to do."
Right.
Right. But I said the funny thing is, I said what I find rather ironic is you haven't asked those questions to the mother. So so me being a parent and being an authority figure is considered problematic because I'm being patriarchal, but it isn't a problem when mom does it. So we tend to find these type of issues in the black community, particularly in higher education spaces, to where a man, if he engages in a particular behavior, it's a problem, but the woman engages in the behaviors, absolutely, Iron Woman, hear me roar. So
Right.
it's really hypocritical, to be quite honest.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. So I don't know, but so I guess we'll have to think. Is there anywhere that you think black men are imitating white men? Because for me, the place that I do think about it is when I look at gang culture,
Okay.
and then I kind of
So
juxtapose it.
you're in Cali, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Now, gang culture, when you actually look at it for what it is, it's you can kind of see it anywhere. You know, what I mean, there's a lot
Mhm.
of rituals and things that relate to many secret societies or cults of a long time, and there's different stages or where you may do something and then you get a name. You a BG, then you a YG, you a BG, then you're a OG, then you're a big homie, you're a little homie. It's a lot of things. It's kind of like any other kind of cult or secret society in many ways. But
Mhm.
I'm looking at the violent aspect of it, the violence, the kind of, I don't know. It's like if you could look at cowboys or you could look at how they came and kind of took the land and that mentality, that gangster mentality. And I'm like, I wonder did that rub off on us in our gang culture and what we're doing today?
Well, I mean, I would say this. We find that in medieval Africa,
Do we?
where you had different nation states warring. One nation state seeking to conquer another. A good example would be the Igbo when they conquered the Homie, right? And it was gangsterism. Now we conquered you, you got to pay tribute. So that isn't a European phenomenon.
Hmm. No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, it's not. But I mean, this is why we had these conversations, right? Because it goes to what you just spoke about, right? So it's like, nah, this is just something we've seen before. Like, it ain't just a white people thing. And
Yeah.
it's not like I'm trying to take up for white folk, but it's just, I believe I have to be honest, intellectually honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I agree with you. I
I
mean,
don't,
I think,
and the reason why I push back, and I'm gonna let you speak, brother. It's just, and I'm gonna when I say this, please provide a dissenting opinion if you want, please. I just believe that it is rather lazy to say, "Oh, we're behaving this way because we're emulating white people." I don't think black people are dense enough to. I just don't think black people are dense. to say, "Oh my gosh, we're just going to emulate the people who did us wrong, and that's why we out here doing this dumb shit." That's just not something I can ascribe to.
No, I agree with you, and I feel like it's like like you said, lazy is the right word because I remember a long time ago, like when I was getting into consciousness, it's like
Okay.
one of the what do I want to call it? It's not a myth, but it's like one of the tenets of black consciousness at a certain level, like a certain low level is like okay, black men is the kind of one of the colorism argument, right? So the white beauty standard. So they're like, yeah, black men have been brainwashed with the white beauty standard, and they're going after these women because they look like Anne or whatever. So they want
Mm-hmm.
the women that look like Miss Anne or whatever, right? And I went with that for a long time, and then one day I like kind of examined it, and I'm like, when a black man, like even in his self hate, gets a chance to get what he wants, it's never like necessarily a white woman. It's usually like some Latin chick, and she still has to have ass. Like it can't just be some flat back white chick. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
They still want ass no
I
matter
don't
what.
know. I do know that.
You don't know that black men still want ass?
No, what I'm saying is I don't know about black men who are color struck. That's what I'm saying. I'm not really
I
privy
think the
to
color
that.
struck ones even still do. I
Okay.
think they desire at least in my this I don't have any data on this or anything, but it's just in my from what I see. I think a thick Latina will be more desired even amongst color struck black men than a white woman with that doesn't have the body of
I
you
got
know
you. Well, and the reason why I kind of stay away from that is because the majority of black men, overwhelming majority, 88% of black men marry black women. So
they
that's
marry them.
right. So that's the extreme minority. So I don't even touch that subject. I like to deal with majority rather than the minority.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
That
mean?
that's marriage, but there's more than just marriage because only
Right. But
half of
I
us are
agree.
married,
But
or
I
even a
look at
quarter of
marriage
us are
because
married.
that's the only thing that you can actually count and quantify.
Mm,
Right.
yeah. I
Right.
don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I guess because you bring up a good point. But you do agree that there is a such thing as people being kind of color struck. I mean, you got
Yes.
some people who would go as far as to bleach their skin. You have a lot of people who say, "I
Yes.
want light skinned babies, so they're not black like me." This is it's not common as in 1 out of 2, but it's something that we've all kind of you can see it's there. It's prevalent pretty much everywhere
Mhm.
where black people are. And I noticed I'm like, okay, wait a minute. If they're brainwashed to just like whites, how come I always see something else, right? So I guess I'm not trying to lay out an argument. What I'm saying is just because people have been saying something for so long and they just say, "Yep, that's the way it is, white supremacy," and you stop thinking, you won't be able to continue your analysis as deep as it needs to go. That's the point I'm
Right.
trying to make. So
And I would agree. Yeah, because
yeah,
and I think the point you're making, correct me if I'm wrong, because you can speak for yourself very well, so you don't need me to do it. Is that it's a simplistic analysis,
right.
right?
So one thing in college that I learned,
And you went
when you,
to Alabama, right?
I went to Alabama for 1 year. Then I left and went JUCO, and I ended up graduating from the University of Texas at El Paso. So I'm a minor.
Okay, UTEP. Shout out to UTEP,
Right,
formerly known as the University of Texas Western, that
right.
beat the all-white University of Kentucky
Yeah,
basketball team in
the first all black,
1966.
first
What
black starting
NCAA
five.
championship? Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I know the history, brother.
right. No, it's funny. I remember when I think I told you this story already. When we watched that in summer camp, we had watched that movie, but when we were out, not summer camp, like the camp before like Hell Week, and you go off and you train before you start the season.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the dude, the Nation of Islam character. Every time they would come on there, everybody would say my name. Like, okay, okay, all right. You know what I'm saying? And that's where that my name Mufasa even comes from. That comes from my coach joking about me being the pro black guy on the team.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but basically what I was bringing up was I learned so a theory has to be falsifiable, otherwise it's pretty much useless, right? And when you apply that to many of the assertions that are put forth in like the I hate this term, but the conscious community, you realize a lot of these things are not falsifiable, right? So that the fact that they can't be falsified lets people kind of say anything that they want to say, and you
Mhm.
can't challenge it. They always have some back door to go out of, and I think that's the issue with things like even like what you're saying now. It's like if you're gonna say that black men are acting like white men, okay, how could I falsify that? What
Mhm.
facts could happen to falsify that? And that's why I need someone to make an assertion so I can kind of put some parameters on what's being said. Because for me, every time I see it, I don't see enough evidence being put behind the argument.
Right. Right. Absolutely. I think that's a good point. But I remember David Banner. He was on one of those shitty Tariq Nasheed DVDs, and he was talking about right. Well, in hip hop, we talk about all these things because we're just trying to show America all the evil things they've done to us. Dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Mm.
Right? If you know anyone knows anything about what the music industry, oftentimes these record executives are telling these rappers you have to rap about these type of things, or we're going to what dismiss you from cut you from your deal. We're going to release you from the label.
Hmm.
So it's like it's but and the argument also takes away agency.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh man, we're just doing this because like please, that's to me it's just completely weak minded. That's like saying, oh well, I jumped off the bridge because everyone else did.
Yeah, but shit, we are jumping off a bridge. Okay, so the
I
agency
think that's
argument
a
is
good
tough.
point.
Yeah, I was like, we are jumping off a bridge.
That's a good point.
That
My
that
sister Shaw
agency
made
argument is tough.
a comment. Her friend used to be friend said she wanted to date a white man because she doesn't want dark babies, and even my niece says she doesn't want to get dark. Sigh. Extremely problematic. But this is an example of what you were stating, Brother Mufasa, that this is still prevalent today, right? And so this is an issue that we unfortunately have to try to combat. So, wow.
Yeah, no, there's all type of things. I thought light skinned people were smarter because they
Mm.
had white in their blood. That's what I used to think.
Wow.
Oh, okay. I used to because I remember when I was young, I was like, how come all the leaders, the black leaders that they put in out in front of us, they're always
Mhm.
lighter? Maybe they're smarter
Right,
because they got white in their blood. Is what I was thinking. This
right,
before I knew about Marcus Garvey and
right,
before I heard about Khalid Muhammad and got to see like some dark
right,
skinned, you know, very
right.
intelligent people too. I didn't really know. I was like, okay, but see, I didn't understand at that time. I'm a kid. I'm not
Mhm.
understanding that who's put in front of me is not controlled by us. It's
Right,
controlled by them.
right.
You
Right.
know.
So, and part of it would be to what unconsciously reinforce the very narrative that you spoke to. So that's a great point, brother. Uh, Black American television news and information states that Black people need to start their own record labels and distribution companies that are controlled by those record companies, and we produce our music. So I would say this: we have our own record labels.
Yeah, we
What we
do
don't
produce the
have
music.
are distribution companies. We
Yeah, we
have our own record
definitely
labels,
produce the
but
music.
distribution is where it's at. So that's a good point, sister. Good point. If you're watching, make sure you show us love. Super chat, Cash App, PayPal. We're all set up. Definitely hope you all can show us love so we can keep this channel going, keep the channel rocking. Um,
So, but on that thing, I don't. It's interesting, right? So we can have the agency, and we have plenty of people who make the positive music, but and they never stop making positive music. Like every single year, there's tons of artists making plenty of positive music. There's lots of backpack rappers and stuff out there
mhm.
making positive stuff all the time. But you can't see that because there's certain people got to push the button for everybody to know you. I know people they are naive enough to kind of think that I could just get on YouTube and blow up major, but it doesn't really work like that. The people who everyone knows their name is because they're tied to some type of distribution, some type of button pusher who says that you'll end up getting billions of views and everybody will know your name and everything like that. You have to be tied to these people to get that. So we absolutely need our own record labels, and we have people who self distribute, but it's still not enough to change the narrative on the genre, right? Unless Black people really united to make that choice. But we just got to keep those things in mind. 'Cause I know it's easy to just say, yeah, just let's just do our own record labels, but you got to take into account what's happening in the grand scheme of things. So we need more than just a couple record labels. We need Black people to make a shift and develop a code, that will allow us to change this thing on a grand scale. Grand
Yeah,
scale.
and control the industry.
Right.
That's the major issue. And what we would really need, if you want to be completely honest, brother, is what's known as vertical integration.
Okay.
Right? That and vertical integration is when a company controls all aspects of an industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we would need.
Right. And that's true. That's tough. Yeah, that's tough. Well, pretty much you got a vertical integrations where you run every aspect of the supply chain. You have, you got you need like the resources, the base resources, like for pies. I need the sugar, I need the apples, I need all those things. Then I need to transport those things and distribute them. Then I need to produce them. Then I need to actually sell them, right? For us to get that is going to be pretty difficult. Yeah, it's gonna be
Right.
pretty difficult, but it's something that we can do.
Absolutely.
What do you think of what did you think about the conspiracy theory that Suge Knight, Jay Prince, and a few other black executives were trying to put a distribution company together, and then all of a sudden they were getting arrested and the Fed cases and things like that. Have you ever looked into that?
I have not, and I think it's rather convenient, right, for someone to make that argument. Anyone who knows Suge Knight was always engaged in a criminal activity,
Right.
right? A lot of people have made the same claim about Jay Prince, right? Oftentimes, if somebody's engaging in a history of criminal activity, particularly if it's even organized crime, the feds know what you're doing. It's just they're waiting to have enough evidence to have a ironclad case against you.
But maybe sometimes you're an operative for them. They might know, and you may be
This
an
is true, and
operative.
they may use you
Yeah.
to try to get somebody some bigger fish.
Or like they did with the Sandistas and the Contras, they'll
Right,
sit and watch you do what you're doing.
right.
You know.
All I would tell people is, hey, if that's the case, I need to see some proof. I need to see some evidence.
Well, how what would classify as proof?
I would need to see an indictment.
Hmm. Well, the indictments. Okay, so the indictments. Okay, so you're trying to find the proof. Well, I say because the indictments they indicted them on other things, but I guess the timing was the what was
Right.
what.
And then the point I'm making is, see, it's convenient to make that claim, and then when you go down the rabbit hole, the person can't provide you with actual evidence.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. So then I'm like, you know what? This is a waste of my time.
You're right, but shit, I'll be damned if I don't think about it.
Right.
And I
I know,
mean,
right? But I just that's kind of my thing. Like, hey, if you're gonna make this claim, I need you to be able to substantiate it. One, and I need it to be substantiated not with innuendo or conjecture, but factual information that you can verify that's reputable.
yeah,
That's just the way I move, right? Dick Gregory, shout out to him. I went to high school with one of his relatives. Um, but I mean, Dick Gregory was a conspiracy theorist. He always made claims that you can't actually that he wasn't able to substantiate. I can recall there was a time where he was talking about the assassination of Malcolm X and how the bullets came down from the ceiling. I said, well, that's strange because that's not what his daughter and his widow, his wife, had to say.
mm-hmm.
Right. So, and for some reason, we kind of get into that.
A lot of us are uneducated, so it's easy. I mean, you look at what Dane Calloway's been able to do. People aren't like using the scientific method or any type of, you can kind of say something long as it sounds good, and then all of a sudden these narratives go around. You got a bunch of people that theories being built up in jails, uneducated
This is
people.
very true. Yes.
Yeah, so they
Yeah,
just gain more
that happens a
momentum.
lot. If you locked up, cats kind of, philosophize. They don't have access to the internet or actual literature to be able to
Yeah, some of them
substantiate.
can barely read.
This is very true. It sounds like you've been there like I have. Right.
Yeah, yeah, I was
Like,
very little
but you
time. Yeah.
notice, like, hey, these cats can't read.
No, yeah, a lot of times they can't. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people that have been in jail will tell you stories, like because back in the day, you got computers and stuff now, but
Mm-hmm.
when you used to have to write letters by hand, a lot of people they'll tell you like, hey, people was coming to me because they knew I knew how to read and
Yep. And
spell.
they be like, hey, I give you my dessert for 2 days if you write this letter to my girl.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
know, because I had to have, hey man, if you write this motion for me, you know what I'm saying? I need to file this motion because my lawyer ain't holding me down. Then they be like, hey, I'll let you get my dessert for a week, or I'll give you $10 on commissary on
yep,
store day. I'll tell you this
100%.
much. You go to jail, you get out that mug, you know you a hell of a spades player. Am I right or wrong?
Right? Yeah, that's true.
And you
That's
come
true.
out that motherfucker counting cards and everything, like
Nah, for real. It
on the
wasn't that
real.
Rick Ross said. Rick Ross talked about how he couldn't read until he went in jail. You know,
Hmm.
he
So
taught
real quick,
himself to read and everything.
family, I'm gonna put the link in the chat. If you just tapped in, you're watching Lumumba Speaks here on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe, like, and share. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. We're here having a conversation regarding our black man patriarchal to gain proximity to whiteness. The link is in the chat, family. Tap in, be part of the conversation. Make sure you promote the channel, support the channel. PayPal, Cash App, of course, Super Chat. We're having a conversation with Brother Mufasa, and we've segued a bit to the prison industrial complex, right? So
Yeah,
we know that is a breeding ground for, I would argue, and I would actually use this term, and I think it's actually applicable, toxic masculinity,
mm. Yeah,
right? And I would make the argument that in is unfortunate, but um, yeah, Floyd Mayweather can't read, and so can't R. Kelly.
yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of illiterate
right,
people.
functionally illiterate. And
Yeah.
what we tend to find is, jails, prisons are gladiator schools,
Mm.
right? People, I mean, and I'm not trying to put your business out there, brother, but I think you said you
No,
been
I'm
before.
open. I was in, but see, I was in jail. My situation is different. I was in jail for 18 days. I've been actually arrested many times, but well, I think 4 times.
Okay.
Yeah, but the time I spent the most time, more than 3 days, and I was in there for 18 days, and I was actually being falsely accused in that case.
Hmm.
I was on the news, all type of stuff. But yeah, but so yeah, I did spend some time in there. But I was in low power here in San Diego. The main jail, like they call it the Terror Dome, is George Bailey. Yeah, they call
Hmm.
it the Terror Dome. Now I was in Facility 8. I was in low power. They dropped my felony down to a misdemeanor, and so I was in low power. Um, so I wasn't in George Bailey. I was in like a off-site spot called Facility 8. And when I was in there, they were actually testing they had us integrated. So in your cell, there was one black, one white, one Mexican.
Hmm.
And when they pulled up, they always asked people if they were okay with it. And I remember when I got out, people was like, "Yeah, I would never do that." Where I had to be in a cell with a Mexican and people that been in the prison before, because they was like, "Yeah, when it goes down, they're gonna stab you. So why would you
Hmm.
be in a cell with them?" You know. But for me, I was just like, I didn't know all that, so I just did it.
No doubt, no doubt. So I think that's a great point that you make. Uh, I know when I went behind the wall, I was in rollover, which is the worst part. So I saw some things that were a bit disconcerting to say the least, right?
Where at in Ohio?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know much about Ohio. I don't know
yeah,
why.
it's extremely disconcerting to say the least. But I would argue that that you're going to find that anywhere. So it doesn't. I don't think Ohio prisons or jail. I've never been to prison, but jails or anything different than what you would see anywhere else. Um, but we're going to reshift back to the initial conversation regarding our black man patriarchal to gain proximity to whiteness. Once again, the link is in the chat, family. Definitely want to get some new people to come on. And hear their perspective regarding the conversation on black man patriarchal to gain proximity to whiteness. As you all saw the thumbnail, we have the picture of Kevin Samuels, the late great Kevin Samuels, considered the godfather of the manosphere. Right, many people took umbrage with his perspectives, particularly the average at best video that kind of put him on the map, and put him on this upward trajectory where he was able to gain over 1 million plus subscribers in a short period of time. Um, and so many.
Why'd you think he was Eurocentric?
Well,
Heard you
so
say.
there were some things that he stated, right? That I think were Eurocentric, and I'm glad that you asked that question. One, he was extremely materialistic. Um, there were times where he talked about dating out, where he talked about that if a black man wanted to date out, that he needs to actually shrink himself in terms of aspects of African American culture to be accepted by other groups. That in my
Well,
opinion.
hold on. The materialistic now, we was pretty materialistic. I mean, a lot of these West African chiefs, all the gold, all the Mansa Musa, and I don't know, is that Eurocentric? The
Well,
materialism.
I would argue is you're essentially from the standpoint of cultural misorientation, meaning you're advocating for Black people, particularly here in the Western world, the death and decadence of the Western diaspora, to engage in take on a value system that not only create promotes Black people being consumers rather than producers, but also what enriches the very racial ethnic group that we're seeking to fight against, right? So I think that the what he's asserting in itself, what he asserted in itself, is actually works against the best interests of African people. So I think, and I appreciate you pushing back. So I provided, I clarified that there.
No, I get your point. If you're coming from that perspective.
Yes, I appreciate you pushing back, brother.
Yeah.
And then he made the argument. He made some statements regarding that. There were some other issues where he talked about, hey, if you're serious about a person, you were married them in 6 months. I think that was absolutely nonsensical. Right? You don't know anyone in 6 months. He stated, well, if you're truly your husband or a wife, you would just get to know the person while you're married. I think that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
I wouldn't say it's the dumbest.
It's some of the dumbest ish that I've ever heard in my life. So
I
there are
mean,
things.
but okay, how long do you need though? I mean, how
Well,
long?
but so this is what I would say. I would argue one, I can say this from personal experience because when I was younger, in my early 20s, I married a woman I had only known 6 months, and I realized I didn't know her at all.
You don't really know yourself at 20.
Right, but I'm saying I had only known her 6 months.
Right.
You don't know someone in 6 months, right? The best advice I ever got regarding marrying someone is you need to sit down and write down 5 to 10 things you don't like about the person. If you can't list the 5 to 10 things you don't like about the person, you don't know them enough.
Right. I don't know. I mean, but see, the thing is, when you quote unquote know someone, they still turn around, put you on child support, and all these things switch up. Divorce.
And I understand that we know there are a lot of people in today's day and age who live their lives, their values are based on whatever is convenient, not an actual principles that they live their life by. I agree with you there. But I think a reasonable person would tell you. I don't know how old you are, brother.
35.
35. Shout out to 35, right?
Yeah.
Let's say your daughter, let's say in 8 years, she's going to be 22. And she says, Dad, I met this guy and I'm going to marry him. You're going to ask her, how long have you known this guy?
Right.
2.5 months. You don't know him enough.
Now what? Why would she be marrying someone in 2.5 months? Is it?
Right.
That
She
seems
says,
pretty
I've
quick.
known the guy 5 months. You're going to say, hey, you don't know him.
I would wonder, like, is it maybe there's something behind it? Is he some type of Muslim? Is this what type of culture is he coming from?
Right.
In our culture, that is pretty quick in our culture. So I would
Well,
agree. But
Sister Shy,
you said 6 months?
right. Sister Shy, I'm gonna need you to tap in. You made the
What she
statement.
say?
I need you to tap in. Sister Shy says, well, there are men that will be with women for 10 years and don't marry her, but will break up with her and find another woman and marry her under a year. I'm not waiting no more than 2 years. Sister Shy, I need you to
2
tap in
years is a
because
long time. I mean, okay,
you're making a claim that I think one is extremely rare. That's a rare occurrence, right? And I like to deal with what majority rather than extreme minorities or anomalies. But two, that's something that one couldn't even substantiate.
I've seen it. I've definitely seen it happen, and that's what my dad did with he didn't marry my mother, but the woman he ended up marrying, they were together for a while before they married. I've
But
seen
and
it.
I would say this: if a guy is with one woman and then he's with another woman and he marries her rather quickly, that means he was always seeing that woman while he was with the other person. Come on now, we all know this,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. Yeah,
So I mean, we saw that with what Jennifer Lopez, where she just jumped up and married what's that Ben Affleck, right after she broke up with Alex Rodriguez. Why? Because she was already seeing Ben Affleck while she was with Alex Rodriguez.
right.
Right.
I don't
So
know. I
just
used to think
something to be
that. I
questioned.
don't know. For me, it's just how long does it really take to know
Well,
someone? I
I
don't
think
know.
I think 1.5 to 2 years is a good enough time to learn a person because this is why I push this, right? Because people can put on a representative. People can hide a drug addiction for up to a year without showing signs of what drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, a person could hide a drug addiction for. When I was in the military, there was a guy. He was coming in uniform, clean shaven. He was coming to work every day, clean shaven, uniform pressed, starched. I mean, but after a year, he started showing signs that he was on that narcotic.
Mm-hmm.
That's why these things are important.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
know a sister who was big on, I meet someone, I'm going to marry them. That's the way it should go. I met her. I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't know you from her bag of white rice. What type of rice? She married this guy. Turned in 2 months, she was getting a dissolution of the marriage. She realized that what the guy was on dope. It's, like I said, it's nonsensical.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. It depends too. Like, so if you're 20, yeah, maybe you need a little more time. But like, I
If
think
you're
that
30, if you're 40, if you're 50,
yeah,
marrying
but your
someone
your
that you've
your
only
your
known for six
skills of
months,
discernment should be better. So you need the same amount of time now that you needed when you were 20.
absolutely. Because, like I
How?
stated, a person, irrespective of how old I am, a person can hide a drug addiction for a year without showing symptoms.
Nah, but you think somebody could hide a drug addiction from you for a year, like, and you with this person often, like more
Well,
than
here's
five
the
times a
thing,
week,
there's something called being a functional addict.
right?
People are able to be functional addicts and still function, go to work, be high performing, the whole nine, before they actually start to show symptoms and start going on a downward trajectory.
Yeah, but there's a ways, like if you're a drug addict, if you're a drug addict, there's
Mhm.
certain ways that you're gonna be living your life. I mean, how are you able to just blend in
Well,
totally? How
here's
you
the
being
thing,
a drug addict?
and I don't know if you've been around drug culture before,
Not allowed, not very much, a little bit.
but I have. The
Right,
person starts off like typically, like I said, there's a gradual falling off.
right.
Right? It takes time. It doesn't just, oh man, the person started using drugs and all of a sudden they look crazy and they acting dysfunctional. There's a gradual falling off, right? Because the habit has to build to the point that they're spending so much money. And then the habit has to build. And so that's part of the issue.
I get what you're saying. I think even in 2 years, there's a lot, especially a year and a half. So you're talking about 18 months. You can hide a lot in 18 months. There's a lot of secrets I don't have to tell you in 18 months. There's a lot of, people, things that you can hide a lot. And it
Right.
gets to a certain point where you have to just trust yourself. Like you're not going to be able to see everything about a person. You have to be able to
Right.
read people.
I agree.
And you need to bring them around other people.
I would agree. But the other issue is when you're with someone for that long, you start to observe the person live it how you start to observe how the person lives their daily life. What do I mean by that? You start to see how does this person handle stress, right? You don't have to go off what they tell you. You go off what you see, what you actually observe, right? How does this person handle their finances? Is this person professional? Are they reasonable? Are they rational? Does this person have a quick temper? Or do they have a tendency to become apoplectic? Does this person make a mountain out of a molehill? These are things you're going to learn not by having asking questions, but what through observable reality.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened, how I got cut off. Um, but yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, at a certain point, life is a gamble, and you just don't know sometimes.
Mhm. Right.
Um, so I don't know, cause I just it was the brother I met out in the community. He was doing a live stream the other day, cause he has like a very strict program with his daughter, and he was just talking about how he's trying to court. I think his daughter's like 9, 8 or 9 or something like that, and he's trying to find people to where he wants to be able to have his daughter. He wants to find another boy of the similar age in another family that's as serious about their child as him, so he could try to pair the kids up now. You know what I mean, and kind of groom
Mhm.
them to be married later. And he was like, because his thing was, he was like, yeah, you're not about to just date my daughter and run up in there for a year and then turn around and say, oh, it's not working out. He was like, he said it'll be a murder. That was his words. So some people look at things like that. There's some cultures where you're married before you even meet the person. See what I'm saying? And then you just have to work it out afterward. I think the best thing to do is like, lean on other people's opinions. But in the end of the day, you can't know for certain, man. I
No,
hear
you
what
you
you're
can't.
saying.
But I do think there are certain things that a person can do to try to prevent that. Like I said, this is talking about just acting in good faith, being intelligent about a situation, you should do what? You should try to do your homework. You don't just dive in after 6 months and then of course have a legal contract with someone. That's just my opinion.
I having a daughter and having her get older and stuff. I don't want her sitting in situations just sitting around with some dude don't know what he want to do and
Well, I mean, but that
married.
comes down to what? One, your daughter, her standards,
Right.
right? Because a lot of women, hey, they be cool with that because they just don't want to be by themselves,
Yeah.
right? Or they with some dude who's a knucklehead. But the question is, why you with a guy who's a knucklehead? Because that's your level,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's, and I have a daughter as well. But I talked with my daughter about these issues. So I'm blue in the face. We watch TV shows, divorce court. I mean, the whole nine. I control the process, but I don't control the results.
Right.
Right. And so once again, this comes down like in my last relationship, we broke up like 4 some years ago. But I remember once we hit the 2 year mark, she said to me, "Hey, I ain't gonna be your girlfriend forever. You gonna marry me or not?" Right. And I was like, "Yes, no problem. I'm absolutely right." So what I'm saying is part of that is on the woman, right?
Yeah,
To
definitely.
what? Date with intention.
It is on the woman, but at the same time, when he says, "Hey, in 6 months you should know," 6 months may be a little tight, but when you say things like, "Oh, that's the stupid shit I heard,"
Mhm.
if you're passing that information on to your girls, that will make them kind of stay around longer and more likely be strung along by these dudes. So
No,
if
I disagree. I disagree because once again, one that's the bad faith argument. The argument is that the men are getting into relationships with women to string them along. That is bad faith in itself. So I have to be dismissive of that. The second
Mhm.
issue is the fact that I would never tell my daughter to marry someone that she's only known for 6 months. I would tell her you don't know this person long enough.
Right,
You don't. My son and my daughter, you don't know a person in 6 months to marry them.
yeah. But
Period.
no, I hear what you're saying.
And literally, because Kevin Samuels, what he actually stated, and this is a verbatim quote, he stated, "You marry someone, then you get to know them." That's absolutely ridiculous. You
Yeah,
don't
but
if you're getting to know someone after you're already married, you don't even know if your values align.
I might extend it to a year, but like I said, I'm feeling where he's coming from. I'll just say that. I might extend it to maybe a year. But you kind of know you when you want to be serious about someone, if you could marry someone. And I
Right.
also know as a man, if you got a woman and you pretty much you'll do whatever you want, she's doing her part. And even if you don't want to get married, you could just keep her there. If she
Well,
doesn't.
once again, brother, that's a bad faith argument.
Why you say that? What do you mean?
It's a bad faith argument because you're making a statement that that's what men do, and there's no way that we can substantiate that.
There's men who can do that though.
Right,
They
but
just keep you
the,
keep you. Mhm.
once again, that is a bad faith argument because we're viewing men in a negative light.
No, we're viewing the negative men. So if she's going out, she may find a negative man. That's not had nothing to do with all men. But if this is the wrong man for her, you get what I'm saying? We're not
But here's the
talking about
thing:
all men.
most men, and I'm speaking in a generalization, they don't string along. Most men want to be in relationships. They want to have families and be married. Right. What we tend to find is that the people who are leaving the relationships are the women.
No, they're leaving the relationships. But see, there are men out there, the wrong kind of men who don't want to be married, right?
Right.
But they
But
still
once
want to
again, that's
deal
the
with.
minority. That's the minority. I like to deal with the majority.
Why you say it's a minority?
It's the minority. And I would always say it's the minority, and I'm gonna let you tap in, Sister Shy. Because if we look at the rate of married men, married women, black men are married at a higher rate than black women. That's why I said it's the
But it's
minority.
still, but most black men aren't married though.
But they're married at a higher rate than the women.
No, that's true. And the men control marriage for the most part. In our culture, they're the one who ask. And
Right.
most men aren't married. There's a lot of men out there that are just like bachelors or single for a while or don't want commitment or they may be dealing with women. Like I was just watching I forget the dude's channel. He dresses up all in the suspenders and everything, but he was talking about how you hear this a lot where guys are like, hey, look, they'll have a conversation with a woman like, hey, I'm not looking for anything serious right now. I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z,
Mhm.
but we can hang out, we can date X, blah, 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 blah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. He's being
Mhm.
upfront.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's something wrong with that. I wouldn't never want my daughter to do that, you
Well,
know?
once again, but just because you wouldn't want your daughter to do that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with a man saying, I'm not looking for something serious right now.
I don't,
And then if if the
why you
woman
say
has
there's nothing wrong with that though?
then the woman is on the woman to say, hey, okay, or hey, no, thank you.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
doesn't mean that the guy
Oh,
is nefarious, doing something nefarious.
it's not nefarious, but I don't know. You should be. You would want somebody to take your daughter seriously. I don't know. Would you want your daughter in that type of arrangement? Would you want?
What
You
I'm
know.
saying, this is what I've told my daughter. You're going to be all kinds of Tom, Dicks, and Harrys out there, right?
Right. Right.
It's on you to make the decision what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept. If a guy says, hey, I want to be just friends with benefits, that doesn't mean he's a bad person, right? It's on you to say if you accept that or not.
Right. Yeah, but how productive is friends with benefit situations when we juxtapose them with marriages that make children and serious people who make up a community? I mean,
Right.
we're better off
Well,
doing that than all this friends with
I think
benefits.
there's a false equivalency there, right? If people are serious about wanting to get married and so on and so forth, fine. There are some people who say, you know what, I've been married before, I don't want to do it anymore. I just got out of a serious situation. There are a number of variables there. But the point I'm making is that if a man says, listen, I'm willing to casually date, we could go out, we could spend time together, we can have companionship, but I don't want something serious, that doesn't make him a bad person. Because there are women who do the same thing.
Yeah, I don't agree with any of that. Like I said, I get where you're coming from, but I just don't think it's a good thing to do. And there's a lot of cases where you could be a man, right? You have a woman, she's interested in you, like, and then you can just be like, hey, well, I don't want nothing serious, and she's gonna do it because she likes you, right? You're gonna string the whole situation along,
No,
like,
but see, that's why that's the bad faith argument where you're saying you know this woman is going to stick around because she likes you and you're going to string her along.
but
If you
go ahead.
tell someone I don't want something serious and they say okay, you're not stringing that person along.
You're not stringing her along, but you're taking advantage of the situation. You're taking advantage of the
You're not
situation.
taking advantage of anyone if you're being upfront and honest from the get go.
But she's gonna agree with it, hoping that
No, we don't.
most of the
She
time
has
that's what's happening.
mhm.
that woman is an adult. She has agency to say yes or no.
I hear you, but like I could say that
Well,
about go ahead, Marie.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's fine.
No, we've been going forever. It's your turn.
Mhm. Okay. Well, Harry one. Well, the reason why I made that comment because I don't know, like from what I see, I mean, maybe it's not the majority because like I don't know everyone, but it seems like from what I've seen, a lot of these relationships they're being prolonged, like no marriage or anything like that. And I'm just looking at the black demographics of how many, I mean, what percentage of black Americans are married or African Americans are married. It's
Mm.
30%. And if the men are asking, like the men are usually the ones that ask, hey,
Mhm.
do you want to get married? I mean, I just don't understand that. This is very low. 30%,
Well, so
that's low.
well, hold on. So I'm glad you brought that up. You said 30%. You said that's pretty low. Black women are married at a 25% rate, right? Black women had the lowest marriage rate in this country. Why is that, Sister Shy?
Well, like and like this is just what I think. I think some black women do want to get married,
No,
and
no, no.
from what I
I
see,
asked you why is the marriage rate for Black women the lowest in the country?
mm, well, it's a combination of things. I think
Okay,
some black women don't want to get married, but then
okay.
there's some black women who do want to get married, but they're in a relationship with these men who don't want to get married.
No,
So
no, no,
I don't,
no.
but
Hold on, sister. I have to stop you there because that's not a claim that you can substantiate. You can't prove that Black women, by and large, are in relationships with men that don't want to marry them. You can't substantiate that claim. What we can
well,
substantiate is that what if you listen, what men have to say is they want to be with women who are what fit, feminine, and cooperative. 80% of Black women are obese or overweight, and 80% of them are
That's not
obese.
true.
Yes, it is. In fact, I'm going to give you an example. There was an article of the former president of Spelman College, Atlanta, Georgia. She scuttled the athletic program department at Spelman because 80% of the incoming freshman girls were obese. She said, we have a crisis in our community regarding being healthy. So she took the $1.2 million for the athletic budget, mothballed the athletic department, and took that money and created a wellness initiative on campus for the Black women because 80% of the incoming freshmen, we're talking about 17, 18, 19 years old, were obese.
I mean, it's a moot point because I
okay,
agree that there's too much obesity, but I don't agree with them using the BMI. The
Now,
BMI is
I'm
not
not
good.
talking about the BMI. I'm talking about obese.
Yeah, but how are
mhm.
they determining it? They determine
Why,
it
if
by
somebody's
BMI.
5'4", 220 pounds, that's obese. Come on
Yeah,
now.
that's morbidly obese. But
Come
how are
on now.
you determining 80%?
Right? If somebody's
80% of
5'1" and a
our
buck 80,
Mhm.
that's obese. And guess what? Men of value tend to not want to marry women who are overweight.
Yeah, but most men aren't men of value though. We got
Well,
millions of men out here.
I would disagree with that. That's once again a bad faith argument regarding Black men that I disagree with. 60% of Black men are in the middle class. So the majority of Black men are men of value.
60% of Black men are
So
in the
I
middle
say
class.
60. According to blackdemographics.com, Black demographics for Black people by Black people. Blackdemographics.com is a reputable source of Black data and statistics. It's been used by CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and what? CNN, New York Times, and the Washington Post. Yes.
hmm That
So
40% of 25 million is still a lot. A lot of people.
once again,
Millions
I
of
deal
people.
with the majority.
hmm
I'm
Yeah,
saying
but
I don't like making bad faith arguments, right?
okay. So go ahead.
okay,
So we
okay,
that
so
go right
go
ahead,
ahead.
sister. Go ahead.
Mhm. Well, okay, so okay, so most Black men or women are in a relationship with each other. So just because we're morbidly obese and stuff like that, so they rather just be in a relationship with us and not marry us just because. I mean, I'm not saying
So
yes, we should
I
be
would
in
say
shape. I
I don't know any Black men who are in relationships with women who are overweight. Now, does it happen? Sure, but I don't know any.
If 80% of them are overweight, according to you, I mean they have to be.
yeah,
I said
that's what
I
I'm
don't know.
saying. If most
I've
Black
never
men
been in a relationship.
are
I've never been in a relationship with a woman who was overweight.
hmm I mean
Never
that's
have
not
and I
your
never will.
preference. There's a lot of guys who deal with overweight women though. A lot of them.
But they
but
may be
I
on
don't think I
40%
don't
of it.
I don't think that's good though. To be honest, like as a nurse, I don't think it's good because a lot of Black women that I took care of in the nursing homes, they had strokes and a lot of them are like obese. A lot of them have strokes and heart attacks and a lot of them are being in a nursing home and they're going into the nursing homes in their 50s and 40s.
Right.
And
And
I'm
some of
looking
this
at
is
this and
just
I'm like, so it's not
it's
good.
poor diet. Like there was a
Yeah,
sister,
it's you know what?
I school with. She was an organization I was in. She stopped drinking pop and started walking every day. She lost 20 pounds in 2 months.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, I understand, and that's good. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I only can speak for myself. I have tried. Like I'm trying. I'm still trying. But when I get stressed out, I eat. I mean, and that's something I have to work on because I
Mhm.
am like obese. I mean, just looking at like my weight, like I'm 200 pounds and I'm 5'2". So I do need to work on my weight. But every time when I get stressed and my job is stressful, I don't know. I tend to eat a lot of sweets, and that's my problem. And I'm trying
I
to
would tell you
work
this,
on it.
and we there with you, sister. And we're gonna support you with that. So a lot of people tend to have what's known as positive and negative coping skills. right? All of us have that in some aspect of our life. I think what, like some people, a negative coping skill is retail therapy, right? They go shopping and run up their credit cards, right? Become a debt slave. Some people have what is a negative coping skill. They drink, right? Um, but and mine is different. When I'm stressed out, I lose weight, right? So don't you wish you had my problem? When you're stressed, you lose weight, right? um,
Yeah.
but what you can do is, I think, is what is known as neuro linguistic programming, where you can start to program your mind to actually, when you're stressed, to what? Engage in other activities other than eating or eating sweets. There's a good book that talks about this very issue. It's called How God Changes Your Brain. Now, it's not about God, but that's just the title of the book. But it deals with being able to reprogram your mind to have different responses when you're feeling a certain way, right? So it's almost like in boxing, right? Hey, you program yourself that when the guy throws the left hook, you automatically throw a shot to counter. So you can reprogram your mind to counter, to have a different reaction when you're stressed, rather than eating sweets.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yes,
tough.
and you're right. Yeah.
And the book is called How God Changes Your Brain. Matter of fact, I might have it up
Okay.
here. Let me see. Yep, got it right here. Give me 1 second. Yep. So this is the book right here. How God Changes Your Brain: Breakthrough Findings from Leading Neuroscientists.
Okay. How God changes your brain. Okay. Like I'm
Yes.
I'm just putting this in my notes. How
Yeah.
God.
How God Changes Your Brain. And the reason why I'm able to bring this up, I have the book because there was a time in my life where I went through. Um, I had to do some things, right, to reprogram how I dealt with particular issues in life.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Who's the author of it?
Yes, the author is Andrew Newberg and Mark Robert Walden. I will put it in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yep. So here we go. I just put that in there. So yeah, How God Changes Your Brain by Andrew Newberg and Mark Robert Walden. So that would help because I had to deal with that. I had to reprogram myself to deal with stressful situations in a manner that was different than how I was dealing with them before, because it was a negative coping mechanism that was causing me a number of problems. So just something to be cognizant of. And we would support you in that, sister. We think this is very important, and we'd be more than willing to support you in your journey to, of course, a healthy lifestyle, healthy living. But another issue that we tend to find, if you actually ask men why they tend not to marry Black women, is the attitude, point blank, period. And we're talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
ratchet feminism on steroids, right? Being
Yeah.
cantankerous, being adversarial for no reason whatsoever. I mean, men who, unless you're a beta male, they don't want to deal with that shit. What men want is peace.
Yes, and that's true. I understand because I have seen females like talk very bad and just yelling like at
Mhm.
their other half and stuff, and it could be nerve wracking. Like I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
like
we're
I
talking
understand.
about one-way violence, and particularly verbal and emotional abuse, right? Verbal and emotional abuse, right? Dr. John Henry Clark, the late great Dr. John Henry Clark, who was a mentor of Malcolm X, right? Professor at Hunter College, teaching history. His last wife was extremely verbally and emotionally abusive towards him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is something that tends to happen, but a lot of men are saying, you know what? I'm not putting up with this. I would rather be by myself, literally.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, I mean, I know I work with the man. I do. These are issues that I address with men. That I'd rather be by myself, right, than deal with something like this.
Yeah, you got the passport
Yeah.
movement too.
And then you have passport bros who are saying, "Hey, I just want someone who's going to be feminine and respectful." Right? I mean, you ain't got to be a damn slave. Just be a respectful human being.
Yeah.
Right?
And
So,
then
and
save
because what?
yourself, black man.
Here's the issue: people took umbrage with the passport movement, but no one had a problem with this when black women were doing it. I.e., how Stella got her groove back. No one had a problem with it. But when black men start exercising options and saying, you know what, I don't have to just be a doormat. I don't have to just go out here and work my fingers to the bone and be a mule. Now all of a sudden it's the problem.
Yeah.
This is nothing but
Well, I
black
mean,
men.
I don't think it's a problem. People should date. I mean, if they want to go out there and date someone, another black woman from a different country, or even, I mean, I can't tell people who what to do and who they want to
Mm-hmm.
date and stuff like that. But I do agree that, I mean, it is a problem with some sisters with the ratchet behavior and stuff like that.
And
Because I was
I
even
mean, you were here
embarrassed.
for the show on ratchet feminism, right, sister?
Yeah, yeah, I was.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, but I definitely understand because like one time I was embarrassed at my job. One of the okay, some family members came in. It was mainly women. They came in from Detroit. And they came to see their sister. And just because her sister didn't have her tray, the lady she just went okay, the sister just went off on me. Like I was just ready to go home after that. I was just ready to go home, but it was just so bad. Like I mean, just because she didn't have her food tray, like the food trays are not in order, like when the STNAs they give out the trays and stuff like that. But she went off on me just for that. I was just like, I'm so tired of that behavior. I really am. Like it was just really sad. Like I don't know, but yeah, yeah, we do need to change our attitudes and behaviors. I do agree with that.
I mean, we saw what happened in what Ghana at the Amina Castle, twerking for
Yeah,
the
that was
ancestors.
disgusting. Uh
Then you
huh.
saw what happened in
Disgusting.
Dubai with the black woman getting
Oh,
arrested for acting like a
oh
goddamn
yeah,
harridan.
yeah. I posted that video on Facebook. I was just like, see, just opening up your big mouth. Now, I mean, now you're in jail over there. Like,
Yeah. When I
like
travel,
you.
when I
Oh,
travel
I'm
abroad,
sorry.
I make sure I'm very respectful to
Yeah,
everyone because I'm like, shit, I ain't in America. I gotta act like I got some damn sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
yeah.
took me a while, even
Hmm.
when I was in Nigeria. I remember when we first we went to Nigeria in a group together. I don't know if you knew about that, me and Marie.
Yeah, yeah. 2019. Uh huh.
Yeah, I remember Dynast money change guy was talking a little weird, but I'm in another country, and I'm like, first of all, maybe I'm not misunderstanding the way this guy is talking, but I'll always
Hmm.
take the loss until I understand what's going on. I'll just let it pass, I'll let things go. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And
I'm
now,
like,
do you?
let me
eh,
just be cool.
oh, yeah. And I'm not trying to be dramatic, but do you remember Mufasa? Um, how Susan was just going off
Oh,
there?
I
Like,
forgot.
do you
Oh man,
do
we
you
had to put her
remember
on
that
blast.
we were?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
bad.
they. I mean, I didn't mean to try to put
Man,
her on blast, but they were trying
don't
to
nobody
break.
know.
I think. Yeah, I never mind. I don't want to go into it. I don't want to
No,
start
we,
nothing.
we we don't have to say who she. Well, I guess we already did. But yeah, no, we had somebody on the trip acting a fool, calling another dude a bitch, getting into an argument, just all type of drama, man.
What?
Yep. Yeah.
And guess what? I'm sure she's unmarried.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with her now. I haven't talked to her in a while, but yeah, that did happen.
Yeah, I haven't either. And she showed up on my she showed up as my cousin on ancestry.com, ancestrydna.com.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't talk to her anymore either. So I don't know.
No. Yeah.
This is the woman that was on a trip with you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was on a trip with us.
So did Dinah square her away and say, "Hey, you can't act like that"?
Yeah, he did.
Dinah oh, okay.
He did. He did. He pulled her to the side and told her to apologize.
Mm.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
From what I remember, what's your memory of it, Marie?
Well, Yeah, I had to run and get Dinus. I was the one that ran it to get
Okay.
Dinus because I didn't want them to fight, so I ran to go get him
Right.
and stuff like that. But I can't really remember anything afterwards because I don't even know if I stayed out there. I can't remember, but I just know, that happened. I ran to go get him, and um, he did come out, but I can't remember what all happened. I don't know.
Well, Sister Mary, I'm gonna say this to you: Blessed are the peacemakers, right? For real,
Yeah,
blessed are the
yeah,
peacemakers. But that's
yeah.
unbelievable that somebody would. It's not unbelievable, but in my mind, that you would, one, you're out of the country. Two, you're on a tour with a brother. This is his business, and you would just be acting a plum fool.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah,
Unforgivable.
I probably should never said her name. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just slipped up.
that's all right.
Should never
It's all
say
right.
anything. Yeah.
It's quite all right.
But to
Yeah.
use your own thing against you, how do we substantiate black women's attitude? How can you substantiate that?
Well,
Oh, are you asking me the question? I'm sorry.
No, I'm asking Lumumba. I mean, we all know it's true. I wouldn't dispute it. But by the standard that you use on other issues, you can say, hey, that's a bad faith argument. How are you substantiating that black women have bad attitudes?
yes, sir. Well, I'm so glad that you're challenging me this evening.
Mhm.
Right?
Wait. Can I? I'm sorry. Do you mind if I say something, please?
Please go right ahead.
Okay. Okay.
I was
So,
finishing a popsicle
I,
anyway.
okay. Well, I have to be honest. Like,
Mhm.
okay. So, black women. Okay, I think every woman. I just think black women need to control it more. But I just think, I mean, we all have feelings. There's going to be some days where we're going to be angry. There's going to be some days where we're going
Very
to be
true.
happy. I
Yes,
can't sit up here and say that I'm always nice all the time because some days I do have an attitude. Like, yeah, I'm
absolutely.
sorry. Like, if
Yep.
someone makes me upset, I'm
Mhm.
going to have an attitude. I'm sorry. So maybe someone might catch me on a bad day and they say, "Oh, see, that's why Black American women always have attitudes." But that could be just a day when
But
I'm
sister,
just very
but
upset.
in your defense, I'm quite sure if you were in a bad mood, you would say, "Hey, I'm not in a good mood today, so give me some space." You would say something like that,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah, I would.
Right? Because I
Yeah.
remember there
Hmm.
was a time where I had went to the gym, and people who know me, I have an extremely gregarious personality, right? So I'm at the gym one day, and somebody, hey, what's up? I was like, hey man, I'm not in a good mood right now, so I gotta just do my workout and get out of here, right? That type of thing, rather than you kind of see what I'm saying here.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, so to answer your question, Brother Mufasa, um, my response would be observable reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it will be substantiated. Observable reality. And what I mean by that is when we see Black women engaging in this type of debauchery, this type of dysfunctional, harridan, recalcitrant type behavior, the Black women who do not engage in that behavior, by and large, do not seek to correct them. In fact, we find in the observable reality, they go out and actually support them in doing
Mm-hmm.
so. A
All
good
right,
example, hold
observable
on, a good
reality.
example
Yeah,
would
that's
be
a
the
slippery slope.
situation with those sisters. And has anyone on this broadcast seen the movie Sankofa?
I never finished it, but yeah, I seen it.
Okay, but you know what I'm talking about. Where that
Hmm.
sister, right, I used to tell him loosely, was at the slave castle acting a damn fool,
Right.
right? So I teach African American history. My class had to watch that movie the same week that the situation happened in Ghana at the slave castle. The women were twerking. There was a Black woman. So brother Phil, who has the African Diaspora News Channel, he did a video talking about how this behavior was unbecoming, it's problematic, it's disrespectful to our ancestors, yada yada yada. A Black woman who was a surgeon emailed him saying it's in support of the women who were engaging in that type of behavior. And this woman was in her 50s. So this is the type of stuff we're talking about. Observable reality, you know that this is taking place. Because we know the only way you can have a large segment of the community behaving this type of behavior, engaging in this type of behavior, is if what? It's supported by the community or they're not accustomed to someone correcting them.
No, I agree with you. I just think if
Real
you
quick,
get
it's the same as a child who's misbehaving in public. And you say something to them, hey, young man, what are you doing? Young lady, what are you doing? They look at you like you cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Who do you think you are to correct me? Because they're not accustomed to someone correcting them. We see the same thing with many of our young men and women nowadays. They are extremely belligerent, bellicose, truculent for no reason whatsoever, making a mountain out of a damn molehill. And when you say something to them about it, they're looking at you like you got goddamn egg on your face.
right. I agree with everything you're saying. I think if we say, hey, there's a lot of brothers shacking up with women, and you say, hey, how do you substantiate that? We could say observable reality. Hey, you see it often, things like that. That's the only thing I'm saying, because what you're saying is true, but by the standard that you applied on us, I don't know if you meet that standard by saying observable reality, because I see a lot of people shacking up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the previous conversation is about stringing women on in a relationship, not about shacking up. But I get what you're coming from.
Yeah.
Get where you're coming from.
Well, I'm saying shacking up and staying together for a while without marrying per se. You know what I mean? And then maybe they'll marry later.
Well, in most states, that's considered a common law marriage.
Right.
So, matter of fact, I had a former colleague. You know, he was a white man, but he and his partner, they had like 3 kids, had been together for 20 years, but they refused to get married because they didn't want the government in their business.
But they were in a common law state?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So they
literally, he told me, I was like, "Why don't you just get married?" He's like, we ain't getting the government in our situation. They were vehemently opposed to it. I said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it, but at the same time, I may. I just don't really see myself getting married in this country.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like the laws.
Right. Yeah, right. Dr. T. Hassan Johnson talks about this. He says the policies.
Yeah.
For example, when a man leaves divorce court, he typically leaves destitute.
Yep.
But why don't women, like, why don't they sign like prenuptial agreements?
Well, I mean,
Like,
you can
does
have a
that?
prenuptial agreement. You can, but because of no fault divorce, a lot of when you can have a prenuptial agreement and still go to court and the judge be like, no, we're voiding the prenup.
What's his name? The lead attorney said that doesn't usually happen.
I'm sorry.
The lead attorney, he was saying that prenups work.
Usually. Yeah, he said that, but there are cases, particularly in California, where if you can have a prenup, you go in and they void it. And there are prenups to where they can say, hey, the prenup is void if there was infidelity, abuse, things of that nature.
A prenup is fine. The issue really for me is you can't prenup child support, to my knowledge.
Right.
You could prenup for you could prenup for your marriage or your assets at the time of marriage, but or you can fix all that. But that's not really the issue. The issue more so for me is child support.
Yeah, and I remember I had a conversation with a sister, this is a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, yeah, my ex, I was having a conversation with a brother. He married a woman who had 2 kids. Don't know why, but he did. And he was telling me how, well, the father of her 2 kids doesn't want to pay child support. And I said, when you think about it, no man wants to pay child support. He says, why? Because if you're paying child support, that means you don't have custody of the children, which means you're financially supporting children in which you have no authority to say so regarding how they're raised, educated, or socialized. I said, a reasonable person would have a problem with that.
Well, no, you can still pay. I paid. I was paying $1,031, and I kind of explained my situation.
Right, yeah, but what I'm saying is, more often than not, if you're paying child support, you don't have custody of the child.
Yeah,
which means you have no say so regarding how the child is raised, educated, or socialized. A reasonable person would take umbrage with having to financially support a child that they are unable to raise.
Yeah, it took me a while to see that. I know, because for me,
so and it's not a situation where he just don't want to take his. No, the guy wants to raise the child, not just financially support it.
Right.
Wow.
Because the man is like, this is my legacy here. This child is a reflection of me. So I want to be the one to make sure that he gets across the finish line. Right. So I tell people like, hey, there's a lot that you have to unpack there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I mean, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we talked about this before. that they take out 20 to 25% of your check before taxes.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of times the men are working for 50%. 50. We ain't talking about Curtis Jackson.
That's sad.
No.
So yeah, so like Dr. T.S.R. Johnson stated, he says, you know, black men are harmed by the policy and the lack of, well, men, he says men, by the policy and lack of policy, because in these situations you get screwed, right? They have no fault divorces. This was created during the 80s when what Reagan was in the Oval Office, and the Republicans had control of what the House and the Senate. They put in no fault divorce. So the conservatives are supposed to be pro family, but they made it easier for people to get divorces.
Right.
And as a result,
Wow.
motherfuckers should show up, just run to the courthouse, make up some bullshit, and be like, I'm out of here. I got your kid. You running me money. In fact, there's a sister. She has a channel called Pink Book Lessons. On her channel, somehow she's gotten copies of court proceedings, right? In terms of custody and everything like that. The women go in and say, I want child support and I want the father to have no visitation.
Oh,
And
hell no.
these are women of all races. She said this is the type of stuff that's going on. Women will have a child by a man, separate from him, say I want child support and want the man to have nothing to do with the child.
Yeah, look, and then get with another guy, get your children to call that guy dad.
Yeah.
Ask me
Stupid.
how I
It's
know.
unfreaking believable. And this isn't a black woman issue. We find this is a woman issue in America.
It's a power thing. It's like,
Yeah,
hey,
it's a power
you
thing.
want to be able to get the kid and then run the
Yeah.
kid. You don't want the
When
man.
I was doing COVID, I was working at a COVID quarantine site. Black woman was one of the supervisors. She stated she had like a 12-year-old son. I said, okay. She said the father was paying almost $1,000 a month in child support. It was extremely active and engaged in the son's life. But she told her son that he can call her boyfriend dad if he wants. I said, that's extremely
That's
disrespectful.
so dumb. Yeah.
Extremely disrespectful. But this is the mindset. Like I
Well,
said, for most people nowadays, the value system is what? Whatever is convenient. There's no actual principles, a systematic way of living one's life, particular values one will live by. It's just whatever's convenient, that's what I go with.
Man, if I could tell
well,
you everything
it's
in my situation.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Brother,
man.
I already know your situation because I'm dealing with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, ain't nothing new under the sun. What Ice Cube say, every hood is the same. Right, when I joined the fatherhood rights movement, when I started volunteering and working with the Montgomery County Fatherhood Initiative, and how man of every racial ethnic background come in with the same exact story, I said, God damn.
No, and that's what I'm saying. It's systematic. That's why I see when people talk about passport, bro, and this and this and that, it's like, oh, you got a problem with the women. I'm like, it's the system. It's the way this system is.
And it's the women. I listen. I will say, and it's the women.
It's the women, right? But women are
too.
women, though.
It's the women too. I take
but I'm
women to
saying,
200, Alex.
but
Absolutely.
women are women. Like women can only get away with what being allowed them to. Ultimately, like the women in Saudi Arabia couldn't do all this.
Right, but that's because the laws in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, the men who enforces the laws, men. Ultimately,
well, the men of their culture, we don't enforce the laws in this country.
We as black men, we don't, but men still enforce the laws. Ultimately,
well,
it comes down to
white
men.
men make these laws.
Yeah, white men, exactly, and that's what they're doing in this country. So I'm like, what? I'll just go somewhere else where it's not like that. That's really my
well,
main
it's
motivation.
gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt American women in the long run. They're gonna I mean, they're gonna be single and they're gonna be wondering where all the men going.
It's
I
a lot.
mean, well, the good men, I say,
Yeah,
those
there you
type
go.
of men.
I'm about to say because
Yeah,
there's a
you can
lot of
always
men
find
that'll.
somebody. Yeah.
It's a lot of men that'll just get in this situation. There's women out here wifing dudes, and it's a lot of dudes that's okay with that. A lot of gender role, like they talk about transgenderism. A lot of these relationships are trans in terms of the gender roles of it.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Dr. T. Hassan Johnson talks about the husband-son crisis, not the son-husband, but the husband-son, in which many women of status, socioeconomic, white credentials, etc., will seek out relationships with men who are what? Lower class, limited education. Why? So that they could dominate the relationship.
Yeah, there's
And
no.
actually, you see it a lot in higher education. I've had a number of female professors who were PhDs and their husbands were pizza delivery drivers. And I'm not making this up. That is not hyperbole.
No, I agree. I mean, I see it. That's definitely some observable reality because,
Mhm.
there's no standards. You can kind of do whatever you want, and I think the crux of it is this feminist ideology has been bought. So it's like, hey, you're a man. You can't be telling me what to do.
Mhm.
It's like anti-institution. It's against the
Yeah.
traditional
Yeah,
institution.
against any type of structure, systematic
Yeah.
way of doing things. I was in a qualitative research course, and this Latino young lady said, "Well, my grandmother doesn't know anything about feminism, but I kind of realized that she was an organic feminist because she would tell me not to listen, not to do what my dad told me to do."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "That's not feminism. That's teaching you to disrespect your daddy. He's your father. He's supposed to tell your ass what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
So that ain't damn feminism. She's teaching you to be a goddamn harridan."
Mm-hmm. But that's where everything is at. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I'm not totally closing the door to American women, but I don't really want to because it's a big headache to try to
My brother,
educate people.
let me help you. Let me help you. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, it's a lot of energy trying to date
You
over
you remember
food.
you remember on Scooby Doo, they'll be running, they had their hands out like this when they running. Like that's me. I'm hit up motherfucker like, God damn it, get me away from this goddamn ghost or whatever it is. I'm out this piece. For
I don't know.
real.
I mean, okay, so you say you're okay just being alone. You don't want to. You got 2 kids though, so you're lucky. I still need another kid.
Once again, hey, I'm gonna take a picture on Instagram and post this shit like this. Oh man, go ahead, brother.
No, I'm just saying. I'm like, because that ain't gonna work. It sounds good, but it's
It
like it's
do
a
for
lot of
me.
effort, huh?
It do for me.
What to just be alone?
Yeah, because I don't want to do I don't. It's the emotional labor aspect. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's like men are. You're supposed to do that, aren't you? Like to an
I,
extent.
once again,
She's doing her job.
I I don't want to the emotional labor. I don't want to do the emotional labor. I'm exhausted. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
Aw.
Sister Shy, when
You
you are
you
in
making me you making me feel sad, Lumumba. Dang, we that
no,
bad? Jeez.
no. This is the thing for me. When you are in a serious adult relationship, part of that emotional labor is that you have a 24/7, 365 care, concern, and consideration for for your partner's feelings regarding everything that you say and do and don't do. I don't
Right.
want to do that anymore.
Right. But that's outside of the arguments we're making here today.
Right? I mean,
That's just
I
me though.
I had a conversation with my parents about it. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm good. Like I'm cool. Like straight up, I'm good.
So you basically you're MGTOW then. You're like MGTOW, or I don't know if you monk, but
No, I'm not a monk.
then you're doing something. Then I mean, you got to be doing something. You got to deal with women in one way or another if you want sex from them. Unless you're tricking, I mean, there's really no way around it.
Well, I'm not tricking. I've never tricked before, and I don't plan on doing it in the future.
Right.
Miss Mello says we aren't that bad. I want you to tap in and be part of the conversation, Miss Mello. Tap in and be part of the conversation. You do not have to cam up to be part of the conversation, right? And you can, of course, use a pseudonym. But the link is in the chat. I'm gonna put the link in the chat one more time. Tap in and be part of the conversation. I'm not. Once again, this ain't got nothing to do with anything. This is about me. I don't have the patience anymore to engage in emotional labor of being in a serious relationship. That's what it's about. This is about me. So when people say it's not you, it's me, that's really what it is.
No, I get that. That's what I was saying. I mean, with the way you're phrasing it, that's not really related to what we're talking about.
Mhm.
But I just say, in the end of the day,
Mufasa,
strong
I think
families
he
will be
gonna
better.
find someone. He'll find that one. I believe
Okay,
it.
but
Well,
I mean,
listen,
but the
I'm
way
not.
he's
That's not
talking,
because I'm not looking. Michelle, if you could count up real quick while you're in queue, just to make sure I can see who you are and you're not a scammer, then I'll let you into the conversation. Go.
Yeah, but
Okay, I see you, Michelle.
Hello, good evening, panel. How are
You're
you?
doing quite all
all good.
right.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you. This is I think this is a great topic about patriarchy. Again, I didn't hear everything from the beginning,
That's quite
so
all
forgive
right,
me if I
sister.
repeat my. Okay. So my concern is that we no longer are operating from an African-centered base, culture, system, or way of life. So now we have adopted this Eurocentric system. So, and it's just a bunch of confusion for all of us and all ends, men, women,
So,
child,
so, so when you
and
say
so forth.
African Center, what do you mean?
African centered is based on our history, historically
Mhm.
how things were managed and run in our civilizations as
Right.
African people. At
And
least the
so,
basis.
very quickly, because you weren't here at the beginning,
Okay.
in traditional African culture, and we define traditional African culture as African culture independent of Arab and Islamic influence. I'm sorry, European and Arab influence. Um, African cultures were extremely patriarchal and extremely conservative in nature. Extremely conservative.
But again, because our civilization was based in our homeland, or at least lands in which we were the dominant force.
Right.
So therefore, we could cultivate ourselves in a manner which was best for ourselves.
And we can't do that
Right
here.
now, no, not 100%. No.
I would vehemently disagree. There's something known as adaptive vitality, the ability to adjust to changing circumstances without losing substance or essence. And if you look at the history of
Okay.
African people in the Western world, it is one of the key themes of African diasporic history. I can speak on this because I teach the subject matter, right? Is what agency and adaptive vitality and ingenuity, that we are able to adjust to changing circumstances without losing our substance or essence.
But okay, fair enough. But then what I see with a lot of our people, we want assimilation.
Okay, fair. And I'm gonna go right back to you, sister. Fair enough, right? Fair enough. You go right ahead.
Okay, we're more about assimilating than taking control of our destinies as a people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're in the quadrant we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Is because we rather see assimilation than anything else. For example,
I agree with you there.
why can't we as a community come together and address, for me, the biggest, address certain issues, uh truancy in the school system,
Mm-hmm.
uh right now
So,
gentrification
so,
is a big
so,
issue.
so, so
Why
let
aren't
me
we galvanized?
well, hold on. Let me let's touch on the first one. We could go through that in bullet form. Truancy in the school system. Um, I hope she taps back in. Maybe she got disconnected. Oh man, this is a great conversation we were having. So I think she maybe she got disconnected, phone cut off or something. So hopefully she could tap back in. Truancy in the school system, right? Well, I think when we talk about these issues, the African proverb states that what the ruin. Yes, she's right back. All right, glad you can make it back, sister. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I pressed a button. I didn't realize that it would take
Okay,
me off.
okay, no problem. So truancy in the school system. The African proverb states what we're talking about, doing things from an African centered frame of reference. The African proverb states the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. We have to be honest that a lot of black children, not all, but there's a good segment of black children grow up in households that are criminal incubators.
Oh yes,
So
but also you understand why are the families in the first place in a position to be criminal incubators?
well, I would argue that there are a number, right, of variables there, but we also have to understand that in no society ever in the history of humanity, no group of people, no civilization, no ethnic group of people have ever been able to create a utopia. There are always going to be people who are social deviants, right? If we
Okay,
go
then,
back,
but
well, very quickly, if we go back in ancient history, we study antiquity, the oldest written criminal justice text that we know of, right, is what the Code of Hammurabi in Mesopotamia. So you are always, irrespective of where you are in the world, what group of people you're dealing with, going to have individuals who are engaging in socially deviant behavior. That's just a reality.
okay, but then we're not in a position to regulate it as a people. It's somebody else's laws that's really regulating those
Well,
behaviors.
we have a way. We have a way to regulate it, and it's called
Okay.
what? We ostracize those individuals. That's how we regulate it, and that is
But
something
now it's
that.
called
Hold on,
body
wait,
shaming.
quickly, hold on.
Now
That
it's
is
called slut shaming.
right, right. But and then that goes to the integration point that you made. But and we talking about being African centered, and the African centered way that we dealt with. There were a number of ways, but one of the ways that we dealt with what people who we considered engaging in socially deviant behavior was we ostracized them. So, for example, I'm gonna use an extremely colorful example. If I, Bakari K. Lumumba, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, engaged in what we felt from an African-centered frame of reference with socially deviant behavior, meaning I'm gonna use a colorful example. I was physically assaulting Black women. You all would ostracize me. You would not support my channel. You wouldn't come on my platform, right or wrong.
Correct.
Right. You may not be able to physically touch me. You may not be able to send goons to my place. But since Bakari Lumumba is engaging in socially deviant behavior, we are not going to support his platform. We're going to speak against him, and we are going to shut him down. So there are ways that we could deal with that.
I think the biggest issue with that type of thing is our lack of media reach. You know, so how many people can we inform about Lumumba's actions?
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, that's really the issue. Like even what sound like Michelle was kind of going into. I don't know if you responded to her truancy statement.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think I did. I think I did.
Oh, okay.
But like the major issue is here is what, irrespective of having control of the airwaves, what we do know is that what we are able to what engage in what ostracizing individuals, making them social.
So then how would you correct a 15-year-old who has truancy issues in your perspective? Because you still have to be careful how you do it, because you don't want to have them have developmental issues.
Right. So
but he still needs.
One of the things what I do when I'm dealing with young men and women who are engaged in allegedly deviant behavior is in any situation, I correct and also encourage. So the first thing I tell them is, one, you're better than that. Right. So I'm correcting as well as encouraging. Then if I'm able to, I sit down and have a conversation with them, or I try to get the intellectual juices flowing, where we have a conversation about asking the why, discussing the long term. Right. One of the things that I do when I'm working with young men, and we're talking about steps and passages toward manhood, we talk about the ability to have self-discipline, impose order, right? Focusing on delayed gratification rather than instant gratification, which is something that one should be able to mature into as they grow older, rather than when you're a child and you say, ooh, I want that right now, me, right? So these are some of the conversations that I have. But also I have to understand that if I don't have the support in the home, and this is something that has happened before, and we've even seen this, there was a great episode on the TV show A Different World, right? Where Dwayne was working, trying to help a student, and the parents was like, stay the hell away from my child. Our child is going to be in the streets. We don't want to give a damn what you're talking about. So we also have to understand that as well, that there are aspects of simply what the child is growing up in a household, which is that's a criminal incubator, and there could be very little that we could do to help solve that problem.
But then again, it goes back to having a community system, because that family who's the incubator also has family there and their own. So that maybe not.
But what we have to understand is we don't have control over what takes place in that household.
I understand, because external factors has made sure that we don't no longer have the relationships that were needed to. Self-regulate ourselves.
We can have all the relationships in the world. You can't run. You have no authority over what I do in my home with my child. And we can be as considerate as we want. You can't come in here and tell me what I'm gonna do with my daughter.
No, of course I can't. But
that's what I'm saying. That there's limits to it. There is no panacea. There will never be a utopia. There are going to be people in society, irrespective of whatever culture or ethnic group we're talking about, who are going to be deviants. That's a reality.
But the level of deviance in our culture is at a high rate.
Mm-hmm.
Because I work with people who are from like India, the Middle East. Mm-hmm. They're able, yes. I had a young man who, going through his teenage years, but now he's, engaged, getting married, like a totally different person than he was a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
somebody, I don't know, if people from the community came in, I guess gave him a talking to, he calmed down, and now he's, moving forward with his life. Again, he's from the Middle Eastern culture,
Mm-hmm.
and they weren't having certain things culturally.
Right. Right, but also we have to understand that there are individuals like I know because I've dated some women who were Ethiopian. And right, the Ethiopian women are known for being extremely regal, right? I think everyone can agree with that. The sister was telling me from Ethiopia, there are now some women, Ethiopian women, who are engaging in the ratchet feminism. Right? Why? Because we live in a society now to where, hey, if one community doesn't accept your behavior, you can just go to another one. Right? That's the nature of the globalized world now. We don't live in ethnic enclaves or clans anymore. We could get on a plane and go anywhere we want in the world. So we have to understand that people have free will, and that if individuals choose to engage in behavior that we believe is deviant, then we just have to ostracize them. That's just that simple.
So then, not to take us too far off topic, if I may add, the Adam 22 situation. He's being ostracized right now.
Adam 22,
level.
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Adam 22, he's a podcaster. He also has a background in the adult industry. Recently got married a month ago. He allowed his wife to have what's the OnlyFans with a black man, because she requested it as a wedding present, per my understanding, and it's all over the internet.
Okay.
And a lot of people, which I'm surprised, found it very weird, and they're saying even Pearly Things, I think, is saying question his decision on allowing your wife to.
And is this a white guy?
Yes.
All right, so we don't care about that.
No, but the issue is, if you look at it, he also broadcast to his theme, his demographics is black people. So that's why we have to somewhat be concerned, because he's like he's affiliated with DJ Vlad.
DJ Vlad is Arabic. DJ Vlad is white or Arabic or something like that.
He's Jewish.
Okay, Jewish. Yeah,
he's a Ukrainian Jew.
But his podcast is themed or directed towards black people, and then afterwards he had an interview with his team, which were black men, about what he did. Mm-hmm. And they just looking at him. I'm like, where are we going?
Well, so I'm gonna say this much. And Brother Bawana, appreciate the fact that you're here. Hope you can tap in and be part of the conversation. That's true.
And this goes back to.
So very quick, these are individuals in the entertainment industry, and the entertainment that they create, the content that they create, is known as trash entertainment. So I have no care or concern, right? If black people want to associate themselves with that type of filth, go right ahead, but I'm going to have nothing to do with you.
But however, it's an influence in our community, because he's our demographics.
Right, and man, you know how you solve that problem? Turn the damn TV off.
Yeah, but how you get people to turn the TV off, though? That's the problem. You know what I'm saying? You can't turn these people off.
Well,
we have a lot of youth watching these people.
This is what it comes down to, right? And I used to box, right? Play football. I did a lot of things in my life, right? Sometimes it comes down to you just have to have a skill set. That's just what, right? I mean, you could go into the gym. They could teach you how to slip the punch, right? Throw the right hand, come over with the left hook, all of that. And then when you get in the ring, you just have to be able to execute. It's like I said, there's no panacea here. Either there are black people who are going to be about the right things. There are black people who are going to be about the wrong things. I focus on helping the black people who want to be about the right things.
Okay.
That's my, like, I didn't even know who the guy was. Never heard of him before. Don't give a damn. That's what he's into. More power to him, but it ain't got nothing to do with me.
But then you also have, I'm sure you have young adults around you. So this is something that's, at least be aware what's happening out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, the young adults
whether you agree with
know me, know, like, mm-hmm. Hey, I'm a no-nonsense guy. I'm not about that bullshit. I'm not into trash television. I have a 75-inch flat screen TV right next to me here, and I barely watch it. Right? There was a boxing match on the other night. I'm damn sure I had it on for that, right? I'm not into and being a passive consumer of entertainment, right? And as Brother Bawana stated, appreciate the mention. And you said you in the gym, brother. We're gonna have to get a session in one day. We're gonna have to get a session in one day. We can't save everyone simple as that, right? Matter of fact, I remember in my class last semester, I had a conversation. I did a presentation on ratchet feminism. One of the young ladies said, "But I like hanging out with people who behave that way." And I said, "That's your right." So let me ask you the question: that when you hang out with people who engage in this type of recalcitrant, bellicose, truculent, inherited type behavior, are the outcomes for these people good or bad, positive or negative? See, the outcomes are bad; they're negative. I said, so the outcomes you get are the outcomes you get. It's that simple. You want to be around people who do dumb shit? Then hey, be around them, and whatever the consequences are, that's on you.
But by you being aware of what's happening, you were able to have a conjugal conversation with that young lady.
Right.
At least give her.
And guess what she did after that conversation? She dropped the damn class.
Okay.
So once again,
but she's been warned.
Right. And everybody's been warned, and people still choose to do the wrong thing.
That's crazy.
I mean, my parents warned me, and I grew up, left the home, and did some things that got me arrested a bunch of times. These people, you act like people in our community are without counsel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Literally. I watched the episode of Kevin Samuel's show where this woman talked about how she was 30 years old, but she still was dealing with an issue of when she got into it with a school resource officer in school. And Kevin Samuels kind of was dismissive. I would have been dismissive because we know some of the, Black people go are dealing with educational violence, right? So I think that's rather important. But long story short, he was like, listen, you was a kid at the time, your job is to go to school, shut up and learn. So moving forward, the woman said she had 2 children by 2 guys who were miscreants. If you don't know what a miscreant is a offensive word for a criminal. So he asked, ma'am, did you have your father in your life? Yes, I did. I grew up in the home of my dad. He said, what did your father tell you about dealing with guys who are criminals? He told me to stay away from them like they had the bubonic plague. She said, and he said, well, you stated that the school resource officer was discriminating against you. She said, correct. He said, well, was your father discriminated against you? She said, absolutely not. And you wouldn't listen to him either when he told you not to be with men who were criminals.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we talking about here? Black people get good counsel, just like everyone else in the world, and we make a conscious decision. We have free will to follow the good advice we get or not. So that's that simple.
That's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's simple. We act like Black people out here receiving no type of counsel, no type of advice whatsoever, and they just out here making bad decisions. That is not what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, okay,
and I know this because I, unfortunately, and I've said this on my channel before, spent an aggregate of 2 years of my life sitting in a damn jail cell. I know better.
Now you know better, but then you have to ask yourself.
Okay, I need to step away for a bit. I'll be right back.
Why are so many of us making the decisions then? You know what I mean? If we're just gonna say, hey, we know better and we're doing it, why are we doing it?
Right. Well, I would
why
make
are
the
those
argument,
people who are doing that?
I would make the argument, and I think it's rather simplistic, that a lot of it is based on the fact that we as a people, many of our people are intellectually lazy, right? And as a result of that intellectual laziness, we do not develop the critical thinking skills necessary to prevent us from being in these type of precarious situations.
Yeah, how we get that way though?
Right. Well, that's based on the household.
Mm-hmm.
Because
eventually it's going to get to the system.
No. I'm not going to blame on the system. I'll tell you why. Because historically in Black America, being educated, being well-read, being articulate was a position of what? Being well-read, educated was a position of high esteem in the Black community. High esteem. No matter what the system and the power structure did to deny Black people the ability to learn, we still fought to be educated. During the Holocaust of enslavement, we would still learn to read, even though we knew the punishment was 100 lashes. Right. So no, I'm not going to blame them. That's too easy.
I mean, then how else are you explaining this then? So
I think part of it is living in America, living in a culture that promotes being a passive consumer of information.
Right.
So it comes down to the household. Like my parents would say, turn the damn TV off, like I do with my daughter. We're going to read every day for an hour. Right? Matter of fact, I make my daughter watch Jeopardy with. We do word search. I got a damn word search. You know the word search shit. We do this every day.
Mm-hmm.
We have a competition, right? Engaging yourself in critical thinking and engaging in activities that stimulate intellectual what? Development. I put my kids in chess when they were 4 years old. Right? That's the issue. Once again, the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. And if you are honest, most people, Americans, we ain't even talk about black people, just Americans in general, don't actually raise their children. They are lazy parents. They don't want to help their children with their homework. This is a reality. When my son, I remember I was at a rec center. It was summertime. I had my children doing this African-centered type of Kamali Academy. I got a picture I put up on my channel of them sitting down doing the work.
Yeah, we used. Remember, I told you about Saturday school with my daughter. I used
absolutely.
Kamali.
I had my
Academy.
children in the Saturday school as well when they were younger. This black woman
I used Kamali Academy also. But go ahead.
Yes, this black woman came up to me and said, "Wow, are you a tutor?" I said, "No, I just have my kids working on stuff in the summer." She said, "Well, is it possible that you could tutor my kids?" I said, "What grade are they in?" First and second. I said, "They don't need no damn tutor. You can work with them yourself." She'd rather be doing something else. Because for a lot of people in today's day and age, sitting down, working with your children, helping them with their homework, going over one multiplication timetables is boring. They rather be outside the club. And you know how many people I know who are parents who every single day they're posting a picture of themselves in some damn club?
Mm-hmm.
There ain't no goddamn power structure. There ain't no system. The ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people.
Yep.
They have no control over the values in your own home. They have no control over the time you spend and what you do with your children.
And you know, that's true. I mean, I don't even have any kids, but I help my nieces with their homework and stuff, but it is true. Like we don't do enough with our kids. And that's why, I mean, some of our kids are behind. I mean, I'm not saying that, it's true.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a black woman like 6-7 months ago, and she was telling me that the people at the school were saying that her son had a speech impediment. So I'm hearing her son talk in the background. He did have a speech impediment. So I said, "Well, when did you start having your son learn how to read?" She says, "Well, he just started learning how to read when I sent him to school." I said, "But that's a damn problem. You should have had a book in his hand when he was goddamn 3 years old, developing a curiosity and a love of learning, right? So now your son is behind academically because you put the job on the school. This is what's going on here. I had the library card when I was 4 years old, and we were pouring on food stamps, welfare. But my dad knew enough to say, 'Hey, your ass gonna learn how to read.'" And I remember the books that I took from the library. The first book I read on my own was The Cat in the Hat. And I remember it was would, should, could, bat, hat, fat. We got to be honest about this stuff. Nowadays, you don't even have to have a car. If you got a damn smartphone, you can order the books online there and mail them to your damn house from the library.
No, I hear you. I mean, but you were privileged. More so than
privilege. We were damn dirt poor. We was eating government food.
That's not really relevant. What's more important, a father that encourages reading or being poor?
Well,
which one would you rather take? I'd rather take the father.
I would take the father that encourages reading. But once again, I'm glad you made that point. The privilege of having parents who gave a damn. So that's on the parents, not on the power structure.
Right. I hear you.
But why wasn't the mother teaching the child how to read? What was her issue? Could she not read?
No, she was lazy. See, I call a spade a spade. She was lazy. Lazy. I would call my son.
Yeah, I mean,
he's 15 now. When he was 10, I put him he was in a STEM camp ran by black men for black boys. He told me, he said, "Dad, I was the only kid who was able to get up in front of the group, front of the class, and read without stuttering and stammering through the passage." I said, "But that shows you what the other kids' parents aren't working with them on, right? Just how we are nurturing kids to be athletes, we can nurture our children to be intellectuals, right?" My son told me, he says, "Yeah, I remember the summer in between kindergarten and first grade, my son had to read a book a day." There's a picture on my Facebook of my son holding a picture when he's like 6 years old, and the title of the book is A South African Night. Every morning when he woke up, before I left to go to work or do what I had to do, he had to read a book. And he told me, he says, I used to try to get up before you and go outside and play, and you would catch me. Nope, get back in here. You got to read this book to me. I was on it.
Well, I'm happy that you do that for your kids and stuff like that, because I struggled in school, and I'm not gonna lie, I hate to tell people this, but like I have a learning disability too. I have ADD, and I used to, I mean, when I had to get up in front of the class and just speak in front of people, I used to just cry because I used to be so shy. I used to be so shy. I used to just cry, and everybody used to just laugh at me. But I really struggled in school, like just trying to learn and stuff like that. And like, I wish I would have read more. I wish that's one of the things I wish I would have done, like when I
Yeah.
was younger. But yeah, it was a struggle for me in school. But I mean, I made it out. But I just wish I would have did better. You
I
know.
mean, yeah, because my dad would make us read the newspaper. He would take the sports section down and say, read the newspaper. So guess what I did with my kids? By the time my son was 9, I had my son reading the New York Times.
No, and that's great, man. But most of us,
Wow.
man, never seen anybody read anything. You know what I'm saying? You talking about houses with no bookshelves.
I know,
Like,
I know. I've been in some. It's a damn shame. Criminal
I mean, damn
incubator.
near shit. Most of them, like, I mean, maybe a small one, but most of black homes I was in, I wasn't really like coming inside and walking past the father reading,
Mm-hmm.
with a
So
pipe in
we
his
have
mouth
to
or
create a
something.
culture of what? Intelligentsia.
Right.
And
No,
I'm
and
not
it
even
does need to
speaking of
happen. And
like
you
the
and
boys
I,
in the
I agree
town.
with you.
Yeah.
You can make that choice to do that right now today.
Yeah. That's purely on us.
Yes. Like my dad told me, because his father wasn't actually his biological father, but the man he calls his father was uneducated. But he used to just make him read the encyclopedia. He didn't know what he
Yeah,
was
I
saying.
grew up. I read the encyclopedia on a regular basis growing up. And my brother and sister would tease me. So who the hell just reads the encyclopedia?
Mm-hmm.
I did. I would go to the park, win a damn basketball game, and come home and read the encyclopedia. Growing
Right.
up, this was in the 90s. Shout out to the 99 and the 2000, right? My brother and sister were teenagers. I still was a kid. They wanted to watch music videos. So I would tell my mom and dad, they want to watch music videos where the people are talking about having sex. And they'd be like, get the boy the remote, let him watch PBS. And I would watch Bill Nye the Science Guy, Ghost Rider, Where in the World is Carter San Diego, all these educational shows. Right? Because
Yeah,
my
I used to
parents,
watch them too.
at a very early age, helped me develop a love and of learning. Right? They nurtured me to be someone who was intellectually curious. You said I wasn't winning no basketball games. Trust me. Like, hey, true story. I was putting up numbers. But yeah. And my parents, they were very intentional. Right? I'm a semester from finishing my PhD. I was at my parents' house 2 weeks ago. They said, yeah. My dad was like, that's all your mom and me. I said, yeah, I know. Like, my parents still got all these academic trophies I won while I was in school. America's top high school student, National Honor Society, National Junior Honor Society, Spelling Bee, Checkers champion, chess champion. Yeah, I was groomed. Groomed.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
Right?
The
And
point
ain't
I'm
no
about
one,
to
And
no
make
matter
that's
of
is
fact,
everybody don't have
but
a
that's a
situation.
good thing. That's
yeah,
good. That's a
it's
good
Good,
absolutely.
thing.
but
Yeah.
when we're judging entire communities, you know what I mean? We can't use anomalies to make
That's
a
not an
judgment.
anomaly, though. Here's the thing.
You're an
Prior to
anomaly, brother.
integration, that was the norm in our community. To the matter of fact, in black schools, right? The most popular young man or woman were also what? The ones who had the best grades.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, this was a norm in our community. This wasn't an
I mean,
anomaly.
but prior to integration, I mean, we barely were. Our reading levels weren't even really that high like that. I
Well,
don't.
no, actually, that's not true.
Well,
That is
actually,
not
that's true.
true.
Actually, we were actually doing our best when we weren't integrated. We actually, the best inventions we did,
Yes,
everything that
we
our
We had
actually
accomplishment came from.
inventions, but
we started
by what
regressing
measure?
academically after integration, and I actually have a book on it. God damn it, where is that? Oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm going to find it. It's a black book. Asa G. Hilliard is one of the co-authors, right? But here's another one I got. Black Children, Their Roots, Cultures, and Learning Styles by Dr. Janice E. Hale Benson, right? She got her PhD, I believe, from Cleveland State University, and then she was a professor at Wayne State University. Shout out to Cleveland and Detroit. She talks about that very issue in this book, Black Children, Their Roots, Cultures, and Learning Styles. As you can see, this book is rather old. I got tape on it. It's marked up like the subway in Harlem, right? But yes, brother, from that perspective, what we tend to find is that we started to what? Regress academically after integration.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, when I get around older folks, I don't see a lot of them reading.
Well, and you're right there, because what tended to take place is that a lot of older folks did not finish. They would drop out 6th grade, 8th grade, 4th grade, and help the family start working to help the family financially. A good example of that would be my maternal grandfather, right? My maternal grandmother. None of them, neither one of them finished high school. Matter of fact, my grandfather, I believe, dropped out in 6th grade. Then my maternal grandmother dropped out in 10th grade because they would just start working.
No, but this was common. Like, I was the first person in my family to go to college.
Right. Well, going to college is one thing. A lot of that has to do with access, right? And then, of course, the financials. I knew a number of people that I went to high school with who, I'm going to college afterwards, and then a year later they were back home because of the financial aspect.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of like sad about my situation, because like on my father's side, there's a lot of engineers, teachers and nurses in my family. I mean, of course I'm a nurse, but for me to, I mean, I'm not saying I didn't completely do well. I did well in math. It was just English, the reading, I suffered a lot, but I did well in math, and I did well in science a little bit too, but um that English, I don't like English class. I'm sorry, I just did not. And I mean, and I know that's not funny, but I just did not never like English class. And I don't know, I just suffered a lot in English, but math, I was really good. But I just feel like I do need to read more. And it's true. A lot of black families, we do. We need to read more, and just learn more about different stuff. And it's not happening in our communities now. I mean, our kids
it's
are
very
suffering.
rare I see someone reading a book. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
not that.
true. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, you see me. I got something in my hand and I'm reading.
What now, Michelle? Did she ever speak on the? I don't think she really got to get all the way into the topic.
Yeah, just get all the way into the
Do
topic.
you believe that that black men are whatever the title? I forgot the title.
Black men
Patriarchal, no.
seeking to gain patriarchal to gain proximity to whiteness.
Only in terms of, how can I say this? I see it in terms of, especially when a black man is more in the corporate environment. I see it, as they try to assimilate more, they start taking on certain themes, certain rhetoric that are white, more from the white dominated society.
Can you provide some examples?
Okay. I worked with this one guy years ago who was going to law school. We started working together, just like, working, I worked in the library clerk, and he was going to law school. Very bright individual. But I noticed as time went on, he's, type of people he went around with have been different. His mannerism was different. The woman he was dating was different. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Different how?
More white.
Okay. So you say his mannerisms were more white. Could you give an example of how his mannerisms were white?
In terms of when we worked together, just because I was just like a clerk, like, answering the clerk, when you enter the door, he would like, what's, with us, he would, use the more vernacular language. But as I noticed, he started to become different in terms of how we interact with each other, as he was starting to move up the quote unquote corporate ladder.
Okay, so are you stating that he started interacting differently because he was in a supervisory position?
Possibly so. Oh, not, he was in a supervised position. He was trying to go to law school. trying to get certain scholarship, trying to network with certain individuals. So therefore, you know, he was trying to show his, trying to show his difference. And this was
Okay,
many years
just
ago.
I'm not understanding what was it that he was doing that was white in nature.
He started dating a white girl.
Okay, Lord have mercy. Okay, I see. All right, enough said. Enough said.
Now, when you say changing up his vernacular, not speaking as much vernacular, you mean like speaking more properly, or changing the tone of his voice?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right,
Like
because
for
tonality.
example,
I'm
in the
glad
morning.
you brought that up, brother Mufasa, because
Okay,
tonality
okay.
is a
In
major
the morning,
issue.
because we used to have a security guard. He'd be like, "What's up?" Used to dap, but I know we noticed that he, stopped all that.
Wow. Yeah, because I still
Hmm.
would be like, "What's good, B?" You know what I mean? So, okay, and that but the major issue, and brother Mufasa, you brought this up. I'm glad you did. Is tonality, right? I mean, an extreme example would be O.J. Simpson when he actually started calling Monday Night Football games in the early '80s, and he would actually take the bass out of his voice to make the white folk that he was working with feel comfortable with his presence.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've done that before. I've done it before. When I graduated from college, I was in corporate America, and like on the phone, I noticed I was taking some of the bass out of my voice, like more nasally, and
Could you provide us with example with us
of
with
how I was doing it, a
yeah.
demonstration. But oh hey, yeah, I'm on my way to the third building. Da da da. Just taking some bass out your voice,
Hmm.
doing that professional. But like I can speak like right now, I do sales for my company, and I speak in the same tone. I'll go professional, but I won't take the bass out of my voice. And I used to take some bass out of my voice, like how I just demonstrated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed when my granddad used to do that shit when he was on the phone. It's like, man, what the fuck you doing? You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? He used to do that shit.
Well, I
So
mean, I don't know. A
he's
lot
like,
of
hey
people do it.
buddy, how you doing
Non-black
there? They
people
used to
do it.
talk like that.
Yeah, non-black people can do it too. I mean, a lot of people do that in corporate America. Everybody's kind of getting, corporate America kind of humbles everyone in a way.
Uh,
But your blackness, I feel like, can take a bigger hit.
right.
Well, I mean, I kind of change up my voice talking to my residents, like I'm more kind of, I don't know, like sweeter and more proper. I do that like to my residents, like when I'm talking to them, you know, like I
I
don't
think a
know,
lot
but
of people do.
hmm
Or what do you think, Lumumba?
About
You don't
what?
think
I
that's
think, yeah,
common?
when you're talking to patients, you tend to have a softer tone because you're trying to be soothing and caring and nurturing in nature.
Just in a professional environment
yes,
in general.
yes.
What do you
Oh, in a
think?
professional environment, no, I keep the bass in my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Literally. And this is not me trying to be, Ron O'Neal or something, right? But like, no, I'm serious. People like, hey man, that dude is a yeah, I mean, I'm much more I'm more articulate, right? I use a lot of $5 words. Butter Barana, I think he gets on me about all the $5 words I use in my publications, right? Um, but no, I don't do that at all, at all, at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Yeah, I don't do it now, but at that time, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, and like I said, and I've heard you kind of speak to this because I was definitely dealing with it when I was in corporate Americas. People, supervisors maybe speaking on behalf of someone else. Oh, they're just intimidated by you. Like, well, what am I doing? I don't know. She's just intimidated.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just like, man, I
It's
didn't do
just
nothing.
it's
I
just
mean, I'm
your
no, I'm a
presence.
6'4" at that time. Yeah, depending on where it was, between 250 and 300 pound black man.
Right. Well, it's just your presence. It's not.
Right.
Listen, you could have been 5'6", 150. If you walked in there with your shoulders back, head up, confident, your presence. And because I had people telling me, I had brothers tell me, when you get into a doctoral program, it's going to be extremely a very lonely place. I'm like, get out of here. What are you talking about? They said, you'll see, you're going to be attacked simply because they're uncomfortable with you being in that space. That's just what it is. Right. So just I'm cognizant of that. So the mind games. Matter of fact, I remember my program. This one chick, she was like, "It's obvious you don't care about what other people think of you," because I wouldn't shrink myself or change who I was to make them comfortable with my presence.
Yeah, but depending on what like if you're in the private sector in corporate America, a lot of people do that. And it's not just black people or anything, but a
Yeah.
lot of people
Yeah.
do that because that's how you can get ahead in a lot of environments
Mm-hmm.
and compete. So it was me kind of seeing, like, man, you don't got to do that. And I think it was like one day I had clicked over, was talking to my friend. He's like, man, why are you talking like that? I was like, man, I didn't even notice I was doing that.
Mm.
And it's like, no, you don't have to do that. And a part of you too is like, man, even if I do, I don't want to have to be in a situation where I can't be comfortable and I got to play this game and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I
it's
had to go
extremely
get a
unhealthy.
bad
It's
sense
going
of
to
that
be
job.
taxing for you. It can lead to what RBF, known as racial battle fatigue. Yeah. So you might as well just, what did Ice Cube say? Hell, the best thing in life is be yourself, player.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Lumba, may I make a suggestion, please?
Please.
'Cause this is a very good topic. Um, and I don't want to branch off too much. And I know I brought up Kim. If you can look into that if a topic suggestion, the phallic, because a lot of white men are intimidated by the black man because penis envy. I don't want to get
Mm-hmm.
you marked or anything. And to me, that's what I was trying to see if we can go. I don't want to get us too far into that direction, because we really
I'm
need to
gonna,
have
I'm
a
gonna do it. Don't even
topic.
worry about it, sister. I'm gonna do a show on it.
Okay, good. Okay, because
Yeah.
the patriarchal society and them trying to compare a black man to the patriarchal society, to me, makes no sense because of our current circumstances we're in as a people and how we've
Well,
been subjugated.
I don't follow. And the reason why I don't follow is because, as Marcus Garvey said, a strong man is a strong man anywhere.
Yeah, but we don't have a strong nation. Where's the nation?
Once again, you're moving the goalpost. A strong man is a strong man any and everywhere. Or as Jay-Z said, I'm comfortable in any Martin Luther.
Yeah, but that's not.
Okay.
I mean, that all that stuff. It sounds good for bravado, and you want to be a tough, tough, tough man.
But
But
it's the truth,
the
though. A
group
strong
behind,
man is a
no,
strong
it's not
man
really the truth.
anywhere.
Like the group that's behind you, right? Makes a difference. Like, so if I'm in the mob and I'm a made man, and if you do something to me, there's gonna be an army of killers coming behind you. That
Mm-hmm.
increases my strength as an individual. Now, yes, I can be a strong man otherwise, but knowing I have an army behind me changes the situation.
That's a
It
great
changes.
analogy, by the way, brother. I just
Yeah.
want to let you know that, and I'm going to steal that and put it in my mental Rolodex. I'm just letting you know right now.
Yeah. No doubt.
Thank you, brother, for the backup. See, prime example.
I mean,
Well, I
y'all both
understand
right.
that, but my
Right.
position is, of course, I am an ideological son of the late great Marcus Garvey, whose birthday is coming up next month. We're going to do a show on it. It's about a month away, right? I think August 16th, 1887, St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, when he came and blessed us with his presence. So we're going to do a show on Garvey. But I agree with what he said, that a strong man is a strong man anywhere.
Hmm.
And the part of being a strong man, right, just to speak to Brother Mufasa's point, is having a strong team behind you. So I have a team of strong brothers, right?
Yeah.
So I would still, I could concede the point, but also saying that I still would double down on the statement that I made.
Okay, then would your brothers pay your mortgage if the system decides to financially ostracize you?
Actually, yes. I have brothers who have told me, if you have if you are, matter of fact, I've had financial situations, and hey, you need me to pay for your lawyer? Hey, you got a problem, man. Let me know if you need a couple thousand. Literally, not figuratively. And this is no cap. I could actually say the names, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put them out there like that because everybody might be trying to hit them up for some dough, right? But literally, not figuratively. And the reason why the brothers support me that way is because of my, not because of bravado, not because I'm dashingly handsome and debonair, right? Not because I'm in the gym trying to get the suit on Batman, body by Lumumba, but because of my, right? But because of my character. My character is why I have people in my life that support me to the hill because of my character. And what is character, right? In my opinion, character is what? Your behavior when no one is looking. That's character to me. Sister Michelle, Sister Shy, what say you?
Wow, this is definitely a good topic about patriarchy in our community, because there's none in our community. Because if there was, our a lot of our root of our problems would be addressed, in terms of, I think it was taken away from us, the
Mm-hmm.
fact that we don't control our mating system. To
Mm-hmm.
me, have some type of guidance with our mating system as a Black people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been lost, and because we lost that center ground, now we have a whole bunch of confusion
Mm-hmm.
that is translated
Yeah.
to behaviors in school, translated through incarceration, translated to
Well,
families of
I will
dysfunction.
push back a little bit because we've had seen situations where you control the mating situation and the person what gets a baby and says, "All right, I'm good now. I don't want to be with you anymore." I mean,
But
to where
again,
you're doing all the
that's
things
part
that.
of the mating situation, in terms of, um okay, then where is the community to say, okay, you up and leaving? Okay, if you leave, there's repercussions. Let's talk it out.
Right,
You
but
go to
here's
the
the
court system.
right, but here's
The
the
court
thing, though.
system. The court system will. If you want a divorce, the court say, okay. Oh,
Right,
he threatened you. No
but
proof.
this is the point that I'm making. With all of that, you can't prevent a person from going to court. You can say, "Hey, just talking this out." Nope, I ain't. I had a situation like this with an ex. Nope, I ain't talking about nothing. I'm out of here. And then after she leaves and shit's hit the fan, hey, can I come back and talk to you? We needed a. This is type of stuff happens, right? And you can't
Yeah,
prevent
but
a person to go from going to court.
that again, these are the systems that they've created, that we're using, that because they're not naturally ours, it doesn't work out as well as it needs to be. Because I think, I don't want to point to your situation, but I know sisters who kind of need somebody to really talk to them before they make their decision, because a lot of them are thinking in the moment. They're thinking in their
Well,
feelings.
I think a
Like the
lot of,
whole,
I think most women think in a moment, not just sisters. I think most women think in a moment, right? But the
okay. I
reality
mean, I'm talking about
situation,
our community.
But
I know, but
yeah,
all I'm
but
saying
Because
you
is
know what?
the reality situation. These situations tend to be when you go to court, they're only detrimental to the men. The men are the ones who what get the short end of the stick.
but the woman, because she's in her feelings, she's looking at vengeance. She's not looking for me. What I see when I was
But
working in the court system.
Yeah, we all
I'm
know
sorry,
that.
Miss
But
Mary.
but you know what, Sister Michelle, and you know what, a lot of people, and a lot of people complained about her, but I used to attend this like road cut no. And like when I was like, this is when I was 26, 27, and like I didn't follow through, but there are women like creating courses like wife school that would try to help black women
mhm.
to become like wifey material, just learning, things like that. And like they criticize this woman so much. They be on her Facebook pages saying bad stuff about her.
Mhm.
And here she is, she's trying to help the black community. I mean, she's married and stuff. She's married and now she lives in Senegal, but she used to live
I know who you're talking about. I can't recall the
you
name, but
know
I
who
know who
you
you're
know
talking
she
about.
yeah, Ro Cutno. Ro Elori Cutno.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so yeah, people still they just go, a lot of black women, they go on there and they just talk about her, just and here she is, she's trying to help like create, like she has this course called Wife School, and you just learn a lot of stuff in there. I actually attended one when I was like 27 or something like that. And during
Okay,
that
look at
time,
you.
I was kind of like, during that time I was still kind of like masculine. I just like, I just I wish I would have done it. I wish I would have just followed through with it. But she's right at the end of the day. But I wasn't on there, you know, bashing her and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
I still like Ro Elori Cutno. I like what
Mhm.
she's doing. But Sisters is on there just they don't care. They're just on there just commenting bad stuff about her, saying all this stuff. Okay, you don't want to be a wife then. And then when you see black men go date, date somewhere else, then you want to complain. I don't get it. I mean, I don't get it. So I don't know.
Well, it's
I
called
don't even.
hypocrisy and dysfunctionalism. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are some people, irrespective of race, irrespective of gender, if you leave them to their own devices, they make these type of decisions.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Sad.
yeah, it's sad. Very quickly, family, because we're about to tap out in a minute. I just once again put the link in the chat to my account on Medium. I've been publishing on Medium. Please go on, hit the link and subscribe. Put in your email. Subscribe to my account on Medium. I want to join the partnership program on Medium. I need 100 subscribers. So if you could please, Sister Shy, Brother Mufasa, Sister Michelle, and everyone who's watching, um, please tap in, go on Medium, put your email in, and follow me on Medium as I seek to join the partnership program on Medium. I will be writing a different article once a week at least. So please do that.
Okay, may I say something about your article, if I may?
Please.
Uh, I like the affirmative action piece was good in terms of made me think. But my first concern was with the first one. But I guess, you're gonna have like a critique show where we can talk about it in detail,
Sure, but
because I
go
don't
right
want to say
ahead
it
though.
here. My main concern was when you use Dr. Umar's picture.
Hmm.
I, I'm not saying he should not be talked about, but him, to start off with him, especially when we're dealing with white supremacy,
Well, so,
I,
so I would say this, right? He's a highly visible individual, and the article was entitled "What the Fine Art of Black Male Bashing." Right. Matter of fact, I'm gonna bring the article up, and so people may not know what you're referring to, so I can show them. Right? And he made some comments that were extremely disconcerting. And one of the things that we have to understand is that one thing about me, I'm not into the white gaze, right? I understand that anti-blackness is ubiquitous and transgender in nature. So it's not just white folk who are anti-black, right? And that when we talk about black misandry, there are a number of individuals, right, who engage in black misandry, right? And Umar Johnson just happened to be one of them who was actually engaged in this type of black misandric rhetoric. So, as I stated in my
but
article,
that's your opinion. But that's your opinion. I
right?
had trouble with.
Well, actually,
I had
I don't.
trouble
This
with.
isn't a.
I had trouble with you using it because he's so attacked.
Well, but he wasn't being attacked. I didn't attack him. I
And he
attacked
was
the
not attacked
argument.
by you per se, but he's
Well,
just.
hold on. I did not attack him. I attacked the argument
No,
that
no,
he
you did
made.
not. No, you did not. No, you did not attack. Let me
Right.
rephrase that. But he's
Yeah.
attacked in other
But
medium
once again,
spaces.
that has nothing to do with me. But I attacked the argument. And when he makes a claim stating that what, so I stated here what, let me see here. The latest iteration of black male bashing came from an unlikely source, the Prince of Pan Africanism, Dr. Umar Johnson. Johnson on the Daily Rap Crew podcast engaged in his usual brand of audacious bluster and bravado, yet with a caveat. He blamed black men for the cavalcade of problems in the black community, ranging from black women's poor choice in men, the purported harridan-like and recalcitrant demeanors, and seemingly succubus sexual desires. Johnson's alicrious and incandescent approprium regarding black man's presumed arrested development is not rooted in an objective overview of black men's perceived shortcomings, successes, or failures. It is rooted in black misandry. Black misandry is an exaggerated pathological aversion towards black males that are created and reinforced in societal, institutional, and individual ideologies, practices, and behaviors. Right, yada, 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 similar to black misogyny or an aversion towards and oppression of black women. Black misandry exists to justify and reproduce the subordination and oppression of black males while concomitantly erecting edifices of racial and gender inequality. So when Umar Johnson says black women are picking Pookies and Ray Rays because that's all they got to pick from, that is patently and fundamentally false. The majority of black men are not criminals. And studying that the majority of black men are criminals is rooted in what? A racist, stereotypical caricature of black men as violent, uncontrollable damn beast.
But
So
may I say something?
It's not only is it problematic, it's untrue, and it's a stereotype.
May I say something? But you have to understand when we go. When I saw that article, when I saw that podcast, he did not make a. How should I say that? He was talking about, to me, he started about segments in our community, which I've seen segments in our community.
No, he did not say segments. He says black women pick Pookies and Ray Rays because that's all they have to pick from. That's what he said. Did I say a segment? He said that is all they have to pick from.
Oh, I don't think he said that. I don't think he said that was all they had to pick from. His criticism was that we're not working enough, so there are too many Pookies and Ray Rays in the selection pool. I believe
that's not what he said. He said that why is there even a Pookie and Ray Ray available? And once again, he was having a conversation with brothers who were not able to provide intellectual pushback. But the reality is, like I said before, there is no utopia. You're going to have social deviance everywhere. In any society, in any community, in any racial ethnic group in world history, there have been individuals who have been social deviants. You cannot blame a random black man for why some black woman that this black man doesn't even know and has never even met.
But guess what? It's presenting itself in the court system. It's presenting itself in the jail system at a high rate from within our community. So maybe I'm not phrasing it right, but it's here. It's here.
What is presenting itself?
And is at an alarming rate.
What is it that what you said is presenting itself? What are you referring to?
It's the court system, the incarceration system.
Right. You said
right now
presenting itself in the court system. What is presenting itself?
Young men who have gone astray.
Right.
At high rate. Like I could go because I live in the DC area, so the whole courthouse is full.
What's your point to that?
The whole courthouse is full of young men who need guidance.
Right. And once again, the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. I give you an example. I grew up at 1214 Wilson Drive, Dayton, Ohio. There's a young man, his nickname was Boss Man. He grew up at 1213 Wilson Drive, right across the street from me. When I was 25 years old, on the cover of the newspaper, he got 25 years to life in federal prison. Right? My parents said, man, we can't believe that. I said, I can't. I knew that was going to happen. He said, how did you know that? I said, I saw the way he was behaving when I was in high school and he was 11 and 12 years old and that he was out of control. His mother couldn't control him. So I already knew he was going to go to prison. It was only a matter of time.
But then, can I say something? Okay. He grew up across the street from you. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, then there was no other positive male influence within the community that could have at least guided him a bit?
As Nas said in the movie Belly, no hope for the future. He was so far gone at 10 years old. Literally.
Did something happen? Was there something that happened traumatic in the household, or
no? His mother just allowed. So when you're dealing with young children who grow up in a household where there's no structure, there are no rules, there's no accountability, those children become out of control rather early. That's why Frederick Douglass said it's easy to build strong men to repair broken, easy to build strong boys and repair broken men.
Was the mother working a lot?
I would add in there too. Brothers in the community can't help you if the mom resists the help. I seen in my own household.
Yeah. I mean, you tell the young man one thing, but he goes home is not being real.
No, but look, check this though. Check this. My father was disciplining. He married a woman. After my mother, he married another woman. He was disciplining one of her sons. She couldn't stomach the discipline. Same discipline he gave me. So he was being
consistent across the board.
Right. But she interjected and would not allow it. And she got in the way of that. He was a positive male role model, all that. But because the mom is not accepting it,
it doesn't matter what he is, because these men need some type of authority. If the mother disagrees, the boy won't get the message. And so even if it's men in the community, if the mother is not allowing them to help the boy won't get the help.
Yeah, that happens. That happens a lot. That happens a lot. A lot.
But then it goes down. Then it goes down because back to our culture as a people here in this country, what has broken down where the mother at one point in other cultures, once a male is like 10 years old, most women understand it's time for this boy to get guidance from a male. Period. But it's us
That
who
has
don't.
nothing to do with the culture. That has to do with individual women making that choice. That has nothing to do with
No,
the
no,
culture.
no, no, no. I disagree. I disagree because I have a colleague who's from a Middle Eastern culture. Once a young man is 9, 10 years old, the women understand wholeheartedly it's time for him to have male influences. Period.
Was
Well, okay, but not in
absolutely,
this culture.
but they
They
And
don't
not
also
understand that.
again, what
live in a
happened to
country.
us?
But they also live in a country. See, because I can't get with this victim narrative. People live in a country where they have free will to do
It's,
whatever the
it's
hell
not.
they
It's not.
want.
It's not that we're a victim now. Our
I mean,
culture
that's
has
what it
been.
is. We live in a country in which people could do whatever the hell they want, irrespective of what culture they come from, and that's what people are doing.
But
It's that
people come here
simple.
and they
Well,
still maintain their
but
culture.
And there are people who don't. I know. Matter of fact, I got a student in my class right now. She's Arabic. She's from Iraq, Baghdad. Right? She's Muslim. She comes into my class and wearing midriffs, all type of stuff. So one day at the class, I'm like, "Hey, do you dress like that when you leave your house?" No. She says, "I have on a full Muslim attire when I leave the home, and I change clothes once I get in the car and get on campus." So what are we talking
She's
about?
rebelling.
Because
She's
people
rebelling.
she
She'll be right back.
live in a country where she can do whatever the hell she wants. That's what it is.
think it's even best to stay here then? Do you think it's best to stay here? Because if we live in a country where people can do whatever you want and the women are out of control, then wouldn't you think and maybe it can help change something? I that's
You
just
broke up on us,
me.
sister.
Oh, oh, sorry. I don't know. Like with that being said, if we live in a country where women can do whatever we want, like, or anybody can do whatever you want, isn't it even best to stay in this country then? Isn't it even
So,
best to stay here because it's still gonna be white men that make up these laws and all this stuff, and so what's the point of even staying here then? I mean, I don't know what's the point of
I'm
staying
trying to
here.
understand why is there need to bring up white man making laws? What does that have to do with our own personal
No,
behavior?
I
Because they
no,
make the
but what I'm
laws.
saying no, but what I'm saying is you saying that people can do whatever they want in their country. You just said the Middle Eastern lady, she came over here and now she's starting to change up a little bit because she, like you said, she can't dress that way in her country. So
Mm.
with that being said, with us doing whatever we want in this country, do you even think it's best to even stay here in America because it's destroying us?
Well,
I
I
mean,
would argue.
if
I
you look
would
at oh,
go ahead.
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead. I'm
you got
sorry.
it. Go ahead.
Maybe I no, you go ahead. You go ahead. Because
No, because I
maybe
think you're making a good point.
I mean, because I feel like it's destroying us. I mean, like ever since we got to this country, I mean, I'm not saying um, our ancestors didn't always behave this way, but what I'm saying is that if people could do whatever they want in this country, I mean, do you even think it's best for us to even stay here?
So
Like,
I'm
because
gonna answer your question. When I was an undergrad, people would always say, "Man, I need to just leave the hood. I need to just leave the hood." And I would tell people, "You can change your zip code all you want. If you don't change your mind, you're still going to be in the ghetto."
okay. Oh,
The
hmm.
issue, I mean, do you want to go live in Iran, South Korea, or Afghanistan?
No, we
That's
have
not
no
in
No,
your interest.
cultural.
no, no, no.
Uh,
I have
No,
to
we
Exactly.
have
be
no
honest.
cultural
No.
relevance there. There's
Exactly.
no cultural relevance for us as a black people there in the first place. So why would we want to go there?
What
Like
I'm
you
what
said,
I'm what I'm what I'm
Jamaica, South
what I'm
Africa. Now
speaking
we're
to
talking.
what I'm speaking to is the issue of It's not the location, it's the mindset. It's the mindset.
Okay, yeah,
That
yeah,
young lady, that young
yeah.
lady
Yeah, but the
more than
mindset,
likely
where does the
would,
mindset come
would,
from though?
would be rebellious. Well, it could come from a number of different
Housewives,
factors.
housewives of Beverly Hills.
Right? Will be rebellious. What? Irrespective of where she is. Yeah.
You know what? That
That's
is
what I
true.
said.
Because you know what?
That's
Look
what I
how
said. You have
it's
social deviance everywhere.
it's true. Because you know what? Now that I think about it, look at how the Amish live. They live in America, and look, they don't look at how they live. So you know what? You are right. You are
And
right.
here's the
Because
other thing with the
I mean,
Amish. I'm glad you brought that up. The Amish, they allow their children when they turn 16 to go out into the world and experience whatever. Some of them stay out in the world and live a wild life, and some of them come back and say, I want to live the Amish life.
But the Amish are like one pocket of people. Like we have Jehovah Witness and different people like that who
Right.
live these alternative lifestyles. But as a grand, looking at the entire group of people, you get your culture from the situation you're in. The government you're in is very relevant. Now, you can try to go against a system that's turning you in one way and using all the resources and the government and the laws and the police and the media and everything. You can try to go against that, but only so many people are really going to go against that. You need to take power over those institutions or those organizations that are directing your people in a certain way. You got to take some power over that.
Well, I mean,
Thank you, brother. Thank
the
you.
reason why I'm going to push back against the government argument is because you can make the argument there isn't a government in the world that actually works to the benefit of the actual citizens. That literally, you can make that argument that every government in the world, the government of every nation in the world, is working to the benefit of the oligarchs and plutocrats, not the actual everyday citizens.
I mean, it's working to the benefit of. Okay, but are they going against and oppressing one minority group in their government? I mean, who are these examples? Because that's
Oppression
what we're dealing with here.
and a people's mindset are two different things.
No, they're the same thing. The oppression is only in the mind. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's basically only in the mind. If you don't feel,
If
if I'm
I
telling you,
if I decide to be irresponsible and then teach my children to be irresponsible, the government ain't got nothing to do with that. That's on me. I'm not going to use that
no,
as
it's
an
not that
excuse.
simple. It's
It
not that
isn't.
simple. No,
How
no,
so?
it's not. Because we have to. Okay, when you
So you
look at
telling me
some,
if I dropped out of my doctoral program right now, quit teaching African American history at Columbus State Community College, and started selling drugs, that is not that the government is somehow at fault?
well, your situation we already established is different. You had two parents. You had, them teaching you to read. You have different situations. Some people weren't
Right.
as lucky, and many people weren't as
Right,
lucky
and that
because of
means they need to blame.
systematic
They need to be,
policies.
and that means they need to go have a conversation with their parents, not the government.
I'm just saying, their parents may not
well,
be here. Drug
I mean, no,
war,
literally
a
though,
lot of murders in our community.
right? And we talk about
but okay,
drugs. Yeah,
but
the majority of black people did not use or sell drugs during the 80s.
Yeah,
It
but
may
but
not
many
be
that's
the
of
not.
them
majority,
did,
but
and
it
they had a
affected
lot
us
of children.
heavily.
The majority did not.
It affected us but it still affected us as a community heavily,
And
more
you
so
have
than
to
other
take into
communities.
account the majority of people don't have children. So certain problematic people can have a lot of children, and a lot of us can be the product of these people.
Okay. So once again, that means those children need to go have a conversation with their parents about, hey, why did you not work to give me a competitive advantage in life? That ain't on the
I
government.
mean, some of us can't find it. I don't know. I haven't talked to my mother in
But
20 something years. I can't find her.
but but why do we have to like keep blaming our parents? Like, I mean, is there no way when you get in your 20s, is there no way that you can change to be a better person? Why do we
Yes, you
keep
can.
blaming
Yeah,
our
it's
parents
on
for
you.
our
It's
failures?
Yeah, and
definitely
that's
on
what
Because
I'm
you.
saying.
like
If it's on you, then there's no need to talk
I
about the government.
like yeah, like I mean like I okay, I know my father, but I grew up with my father not in my home. But I didn't go out there, just making babies, starting fights and all this stuff. Going
Right.
to jail and stuff. I mean,
Just allowing random to shoot the
I
clubs up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I didn't do that. Like people just expect me just because I come from a single mother that like they expect me to have babies by now with a whole bunch of different fathers and stuff. And like and maybe like I don't know, but people just expect that about me. But like I think it's not always that way that you should just stereotype. I mean, a person that grew up in a single parent home. I don't think people should just stereotype because not every child is gonna come out bad. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I only could speak for myself. I just wanted a different life. I didn't want to go through that route of getting pregnant at a um, in teenage years and then struggling to go to school and all this stuff. I just didn't want that life for me. So I
I mean,
think it is about mindset.
all single parent homes are not equal. Firstly, because
Yeah,
people will be like,
yeah.
"Yeah, I'm from the hood." Just because you're from the hood don't really mean a lot. Because there's people from the hood who they may have access to more money. They may have family members who aren't in the hood. They may have more supportive. They may have both of their, like I know someone who his
Mhm,
grandmother and his
mhm,
grandfather live across the street from each other, and then he lives walking
mhm,
distance in his house with both his parents. His mother doesn't have to work. His father worked hard. They lived in the hood. He taught them how to roof. He taught them plumbing. He taught them all of these things. When everybody else was out
mhm,
playing, they was on the roof, laying tile and laying roofing and doing these things. They had a great situation, but they lived in the hood. So just when you say, and then I
mhm,
know someone else, my best friend growing up, shot in the face at a trolley station over nothing. His grandmother,
mhm,
his grandmother was on drugs, and she lived with him. He had was most likely being sexually abused by his older cousin who was there with him. His dad was in prison for most of him. We didn't see him until he was like 15, and he's like a reputable
mhm,
gangbanger. So everybody's
mhm.
situation ain't the
Yeah,
same. Everybody's situation
my
ain't the same, even though you
situation.
got single
Yeah.
parents.
It's true. You know what? My situation is like the guy that you just said. And I hate to say like I do like my dad, but I'm happy that maybe it was best I did. It was best that I did not grow up with him because he did some stuff to my sis to one of my sisters, and I'm not going to go in about it. It's just very terrible. People think my dad should be gone, dead, and all this stuff because of what he did. And like I said, I'm not going to go in about it, but maybe my mom was like, you know what? Maybe it was best that you weren't raised with him, in your life and stuff like that. And I'm just happy that that didn't happen to me, and I feel bad for my sister, but I'm just kind of happy that you know I didn't have him in my life like that because what if that some like would have happened to me? I mean, I'm not going to say it, but um my dad did some terrible things, and um Imma just say that. But I'm just happy that I had the right mindset not to go out there and be like my parents. Um, so everybody's situation is different, just like you said. So, yeah, I'll just say that.
Miss Mary, thank you for sharing. I know that was tough. Again, Mr. Brother Limber,
Absolutely.
a lot of us, people in our community have, do have situations, and we must be able to be open minded enough to understand there's exceptions to everything. And
Mhm.
in our community, unfortunately, because of our various experiences, is more profound and therefore it's affecting us. That's why you're seeing certain behaviors in our community more so than others because of what has happened to us. And again, Miss Mary, thank you
I
again so much.
disagree. I disagree. I think we have to persevere and stop
No,
using a lot
you're
of these
welcome, Michelle.
historical issues as an excuse, right? Because what we do know is that what up until 1960, what the two parent household rate in the black community was 80%.
Yes, but also, even though it was high, we were still living under harsh circumstances.
What's your point? What's your point?
And some of those harsh
Well,
circumstances were unresolved. So therefore,
Well, like such as
one
what?
well, something just needs to change,
Hold on, Sister Shy. Hold on,
family.
Sister Shy. Hold on, Sister Shy.
Okay, okay,
Harsh
okay.
circumstances such as what, Sister Michelle?
uh the Segregation was difficult enough. Being denied certain opportunities, not
Mhm.
having access to certain financial resources.
Right. What does that? What does that have to
Yes,
do? What does that have to do with raising your children? What does that have to do with sitting down with them and helping them with their homework rather than going out
but
to the
if you can't,
club?
if you can't read, if you have challenges with, with reading and writing yourself, that could be an
Guess what?
issue.
Nope, that's an excuse. My dad is functionally illiterate. And yeah, so I don't want to hear that. My dad is functionally illiterate. So I know a person can have challenges reading, writing themselves and still teach your ass how to read. See, what I'm getting to here, people, is we make a lot of excuses in our community. We got a reason why we fucking up for everything, but we can't provide a reason why we're persevering and being successful. Well,
Okay,
our
so
culture, when we talk about the Asada Shakurs and the Ida B. Wells, right? They just had a birthday, right? They taught us to not be victims, but to be victors.
I mean, you could teach
Yeah.
me to not be a victim, but we were a victim of this American
I understand that,
experiment.
but
There's no way around
as
it.
I teach my children, we are supposed to always find a way to be victorious, meaning that you've never lost unless you capitulate. But whenever I hear where we had these issues that we didn't reconcile, guess what? And when I was in the military, guess what my first sergeant taught me when I made sergeant? I would go to him, we have this issue, first sergeant. He would say, adjust fire. Adjust fire, adjust fire. Because losing isn't an option. Because if we lose, we're sending your ass home in a body bag. Huh?
No,
If
that's
we
cool, but
lose,
you just mentioned so
if I lose, my children don't have a roof over their head. I'm out on the street. So I can't say, well, because of unreconciled issues because of X, Y, Z, I gotta go out every day and I gotta get it. These are built-in excuses.
no, that's a fact. But you mentioned we had 80% marriage rates or in wedlock births. Now we're at who knows what percent out of 20
24.
something. Yeah. Why did that happen?
Because Black women chose to side with the government rather than their men.
Okay, but why is the government pushing Black women to do this?
Well, they didn't push
Because
Black women.
they
Hold
want
on,
black.
Shai.
Oh,
Hold on, Sister
okay.
Shai. The government offered this same incentive to all women in America.
Hmm.
Right.
And Black
And some women
women
said no.
chose it
Like my
because
mother, she said no.
so all of this time. So you asked her the last sister a ridiculous question, which is what was going on during Jim Crow. I mean, we know a lot of things
No,
going
I
on
didn't
during
ask
Jim
her
Crow.
that. She said there were unreconciled issues, and I said, what were those
I said,
issues that
I
was
said
unreconciled?
harsh conditions.
Such as,
I mean, Jim Crow. Shouldn't you teach African American history? I mean, you know about the
okay.
vagrancy
Such
laws. You
as,
know about debt peonage. You know.
hold
I mean,
on, brother.
okay.
I asked her. She
Okay.
made the claim, so she needs to be able to substantiate it.
Harsh conditions. Again, Jim Crow, segregation, not having access
Mm-hmm,
to decent housing,
mm-hmm,
access to financial resources as
mm-hmm,
needed. Uh, Again, overt discrimination,
mm-hmm,
threats of violence.
mm-hmm. And what does that?
Uh,
And what does any of those issues have to do with the values that are created in a particular household? Because in the book, The Urban Plantation, the author states there are only two institutions in America that white people have no control over: the home and the church.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I kind of
What we
disagree because
talking
they
about?
kind of they
Yeah, I
can sway
definitely
some
So,
disagree.
things
So
in
you
the
have
household.
parents that don't want to
They
help their
have an
children with their
invisible hand in
homework,
the household.
huh?
They can have an invisible hand in the household.
How so?
Definitely.
Hold on. How so? How can they have an invisible hand in
Okay.
the household?
For example, food stamps. Okay, if I need food stamps,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm living with my boyfriend, I'm gonna have to put him on child support so
No,
I
you
can get the
don't.
food stamp.
You don't have to. No, you don't. They would keep calling you to try to get you to put them on child support, but you don't have to. You could actually block the number. Yeah, you don't have to, but they would try to push you to do so.
Hmm. And some of them are very successful in doing so.
Right, but once again, that's only if the woman chooses to capitulate. So once again, even in that situation, we have agency. Shout out to Patricia Hill Collins and her book, Black Feminist Thought. She states what we have agency even in the matrix of domination. In fact, I got the book right here if you all want to read it. Black Feminist Thought, Knowledge, Consciousness, and the Politics of Empowerment. We have agency in the matrix of domination.
You have agency, but your agency is limited. I mean, because basically what you're saying, we're not being oppressed by
No,
the logic
I
of what
didn't
you're
say
saying.
that. What I'm saying is you have agency. I mean, if you're in a ring with
Yeah, but
somebody
it's
that's throwing
limited
punches
though.
at you, hey, you still have agency.
Yeah, but no, I'm in a ring with somebody throwing punches at me and my hands is tied behind my back.
But our hands aren't
That's
tied
what's going
behind
on.
our back. That is a
I'm trying
false
to figure out how they
equivalency.
not.
No,
How
I
they
said
not
our
tied?
hands are not tied behind our back. No, stop
How
it.
are they
Please
not?
excuse me, panel. I'm about to fall off, so have a good night because my phone
Because
is dying.
once again,
Thank you, everybody.
if we did
Okay.
not have
Okay,
agency,
thank you. All right, bye bye.
our hands being tied behind our back would be not having agency.
You still got your feet.
If you have agency, your hands aren't tied behind your back.
Our hands are tied behind our back. We got our feet to
Then you don't
run
have
and slip
agency. Then.
and duck punches, but you
Then you
ain't
don't
got
have
to.
agency. If your hands
You
are tied
have
behind your
agency.
back, you don't have agency.
No, you can't. You can still slip. You can dodge. You can bob and weave.
Well, you can't.
That's
No,
about all you
you don't
got.
have agency because you can't throw a punch.
Yeah, but you can run. You can resist the person trying to beat you up. That's all we can pretty much do.
No,
That's a perfect analogy. You can't.
no, we can do much
What type
more.
of punches can we throw of any significance to really hurt this system?
Well, the goal isn't to hurt the system. The goal is to empower ourselves and make our lives better.
Yeah, while we ducking punches, like I think it's the perfect analogy.
Right?
We can't use
And
our
so
hands. We in a
the
boxing match. We can't
agency
use
is
our
building
hands.
But but
institutions.
but but even if we did build like a Black Wall Street and our families were intact again, how do we know that this whole it won't happen like how it happened back in the day where a white mob, these white people come and just start destroying our communities again? It's like who wants to keep building
Right.
this stuff
But
up?
and I
Like,
understand that. But once again, sister, the point I'm making is no matter what the power structure does, no matter what information they disseminate, they have no control over the values that you create in your own household.
I don't know. I
No.
just don't agree with that. I just don't agree because I feel like the system you're in, like why we have these so many feminists in our community?
Let me
Why?
ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. You have your own home, correct? Well, Sister Shy, you have your own home, correct?
oh no, I stay with my grandma. I help take care of her.
Okay, cool, no problem. Well, your grandmother, when she was in her prime, she had her own home, correct?
Yeah, yep. She owned 3 homes. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. But you know the household home,
Yeah, she owned her own home. Yep.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
was she a matriarch or did she have a husband who was the patriarch?
She had a husband. That was patriarchy. I mean, I'm sorry,
Oh,
patriarch. Sorry. Mhm.
okay. And they were the ones who were responsible for the homes of the household, the values of the
Yes.
household. If
Yes.
they
Mm-hmm.
allowed anyone else to come in, any entity to come in and dictate the values of the household, that shows their incompetence.
Right.
Point
Right.
blank period.
Yeah.
See, because
Yeah, that's true.
we keep getting into these conversations that shows our impotence. Yeah,
Yeah.
ain't never been a
Mm-hmm.
situation where some white folk came in my home in any way, shape, or form and dictated what the values are here, ever.
Right.
Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Yeah.
isn't bravado. I'm keeping it a buck. That's weak shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it
Well,
is.
okay. Well, okay. Well, okay. Okay. Well, what about whoopings and spankings? Because people,
Mhm,
okay, like what if someone calls child and protective
mhm.
services and then they come in, you then, so we can't really do that anymore. I mean,
That's
because
not true.
now,
I'm gonna
oh,
stop you
oh
right there
really?
because
Okay.
you're in Ohio. I'm in Ohio. I've had that happen before, and guess what happened? I knew the law. In the state of Ohio, you can use corporal punishment on your child based on a number of factors: the child's age, the child's response to non-corporal punishment, and the severity of the corporal punishment. You know how I know this?
Wow.
Because I gave my son a whooping for getting in trouble in school when he was 8 years old. His mother went to the court and tried to get my parental rights revoked. She got child protective services involved, and the court sided with me. He said what he did is not in
Wow.
contravention of the law. So
Wow.
yeah, all
Well,
that
that's
bullshit about you can't whoop your kids is a lie.
well, that's what some people believe, but like you said, we gotta know the
Once again,
law.
it doesn't make it true. People can believe the sky is falling. Don't make it true. It's
I'm
false.
sorry.
That means that the white folk are living in your head rent free. That's what it means. That's what it means.
Yeah.
They live in your head rent free. You can give your child a whooping. It's based on their age, right? It's based on the response to non-corporal punishment, and it's based on the severity of the corporal. You can't beat the shit out of them,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
That's what it's
that's
that's the
true.
law.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like I said, all of this stuff is the white folks are in their head, living rent free. That's all that is.
Yeah.
Because I've
But
been to court. I still
I'm
got the paperwork. You send me your email, I'll scan you a copy. Yeah, that's all
okay.
that is. They just in their head, rent free. That's all that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm still trying to think how we can, even if we did get our families intact and we decided to just have our like build up our communities and stuff. I mean, even the 30 black families that brought land in Georgia, they was even getting threatened and stuff like that. So I'm just thinking if we it's I think it's a
Well,
threat to
let
the
me ask you
white
a question.
power. Oh,
Let me
okay,
ask you a
okay.
question, Sister Shy. Have you ever played any sports?
No, no.
Okay. Are you familiar with the game of basketball?
Yeah, yes. Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with football,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
baseball,
Yes. Mhm.
hockey,
Yes. Mhm.
right? In a field of competition, your opponent is always going to try to stop you from being successful.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you have to be good enough or better than your opponent to prevent them from stopping you, right or wrong.
Yes. Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
what's the problem
But
when it comes to this issue?
well, okay, okay, well, you know, a white mob, they went into this Black Wall Street,
Mhm.
and I mean they tore everything down. So
I
I mean,
understand
how
that. That
do we
was
stop
100 years ago.
that?
That was 100 years ago. That was doing the nadir of race relations. I'm talking
But
about now.
how do you know it won't? But how do you know it won't happen now? Like if we did decide to do that.
Once again, you're handicapping yourself. That means they're living in your head rent free. I'm not going to even try to do this because if I do, I think they're going to do X or Y or Z. I don't live my life that way. I live my life unencumbered of white thought. They don't enter into my mind. I don't think about them.
Hmm.
I don't. And I know the history. I teach the damn history for a living. I don't think about them.
Hmm.
That means they're living in your head rent free. It's called self-check. In basketball is what we call
Wow.
self-check, where the guy has psyched himself out that he won't even attempt a shot even when he's wide open. Because he thinks he's going to miss it. I don't live my life that
Hmm.
way.
I don't know. Like I don't want to live my life that way, but it doesn't. But I still think about like what if. Like I mean, that's just me. I mean, it's not that I
Sister, you think, you act, you do. Point blank,
well,
period.
okay.
Point blank, all that other stuff is for the birds. The last show I did, it was a duo show with Brother Dynas. The sister came on. she stated that she with TV is a bad influence. I said, then turn the damn television off. Then it ain't that hard.
I mean, I would love to have a community like that in America. I don't know. I don't know. I just
Matter of
maybe I
fact,
just
listen, here's the
think
issue.
negative.
Don't worry about that. How about you just create the household first? Don't put the cart before the horse.
Mhm.
Create the household.
Okay.
Yeah, create the household.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's the
should
main
create that.
focus, the household. Yeah.
It's the household, but you can only really do your household. But once we start talking community, we have to talk about the things that are influencing the community. We have to talk about the systems that are influencing and making the community what it is. We have to talk about these things. People don't get these; they get these ideas from somewhere. You know what I mean? Feminism is an idea that gets in your head from somewhere. Killing another black man, thinking that the most important thing in your life is so worthless that you just go around shooting other black men. This is an idea that gets into your head from somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And
Right? We're
so what
not
that means is
innately born like
that
that.
there are some of our people who aren't smart enough to think for themselves.
Yeah, but that's in every society. You get what I'm
Exactly.
saying? But we're killing each other at an extremely higher rate than anyone else.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
Matter
even
of fact,
like
and
that. I
very
don't even
quickly,
like that
I
term.
always tell people it's harder to be non-violent than it is to be violent. It's easy to be violent. It's harder to be non-violent. You
But
have to
Yeah.
really
but you
use.
know what? That that didn't just start in our community though. That's been going on since the ancient days where black people we just do each other wrong. Like look at the warring sorry, not tribes, ethnic groups. Like
Mhm.
just going to war each other and even us being sold into
Well,
slavery.
we
Like
saw
we
we saw this
we've been
around the
selling
world
each other out.
with all peoples, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you talking about selling ourselves into slavery. Western Europeans were selling Eastern Europeans into slavery to the Arabs,
But but
the Arab
but
slave
what
trade.
I'm saying but what
So
I'm
this is
saying is
something we
this
see
been
human
going
beings
on.
do.
We got to be careful about saying. First of all, two statements. Number one, I got to correct myself. I don't like when I say we're killing each other because there's maybe about 3,000 murders and there's about 50 million of us per
Hmm.
year. So we are killing each other. There are too many amongst us who are killing each other. I should say that. And second of
I
all,
appreciate that, brother.
yeah.
Yeah.
Secondly, we can't fall into that talking point of we sold each other because there was no we, there was no black.
Right.
There was no
There
African.
was no concept of African people. It was all different ethnic groups and
Right.
clans. Right.
Right.
That's a great point as
Selling
well.
selling others, and then there was chiefs who wrote letters and protested when they figured out some of their own
What the
people.
hell was going on? Matter of
Right.
fact, I even have a book on it and titled "Fighting the Slave
The slave
Trade:
trade.
West
It's in my
African Strategies."
it's in my wish list. It's in my save for later list on Amazon.
I have the
But
book. I've actually had some of my students read from the text in the class. So yeah, but I mean, those are great points that you made, and I'm gonna make sure that I incorporate that into some of my talking points, and I'm using concise language for the Mufasa. That's why you got to need to be on the show more often. You know what I'm saying? You've been ghost watching and shit. You need to have your ass on the show. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
um, but I'm messing.
but
But so I think that's a good point.
but that's what I meant. Like we've been selling each other out since ancient days. So I mean,
Well, Mel,
it's
sister,
not
that's a misnomer. That's not true because there
well,
was no concept.
how?
And I'm gonna tell you why. Because one, the concept of race did not exist at that time. People identify.
But I'm not
People, hold on, wait.
okay.
Identity was
Okay.
based on religion, nationality, or ethnic group. So there was no concept of African people during antiquity. There was no concept of African people during the advent of the transatlantic slave trade. The concept of there being a African people came as a result of European encroachment on the continent. Right? The concept of race actually began to formulate around the 16th century.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So there was no concept of being black or white or Arab, but no, that's not the case.
Yeah, that's
Well,
just a
okay,
white
then
supremacist talking
I'll
point.
say this then. humans is selling other humans out. I don't know what else to say, but we just we're not we're I don't know what to say. I'm just trying to say that we're treating each
You
other
want us to
bad.
do
It's been
better.
going on.
You want us to do better.
Yes, 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 yes.
Mm. I got you. I got you 100%. And we're going to do better. And I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna say that emphatically. We're going to do better, and we are better. Every day, we're going to do better, and we're going to get better.
No, I just disagree with your analysis on that, though. In terms of saying the government and its policies have nothing to do with what's going on in the household, I disagree with that. I
I'm
disagree.
talking about in terms of the values you create in your home.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The government and policies play a role in a number of things, but they don't control the values that you create. That's what I'm saying.
You ever heard Ray Hagen's diatribe? I forget exactly how it goes, but it's basically what you think about yourself comes from what you know about yourself. What you know about yourself is based on everything that you've read, seen, and heard about yourself. You ever
Mhm.
heard him say that?
Yes.
And that's the point is when the government is controlling what you're exposed to at school, and then there's a larger society that's determining
Mhm.
all the things that most of the things
Mhm.
that you see and hear
Mhm.
outside of your home. Your home is not necessarily enough. You get a lot of exposure outside of your home. Like we're not just living in like these
Well,
Amish communities.
but that's where I'm going to disagree, particularly having a background in Black psychology. What we find is that the household plays a huge role, right? Because the household normalizes the values, and whatever values are taught in the home, the child believes those values to be correct, right? And even when a child comes in contact with uh, ideas or concepts that are in contravention of the house values in the home, the child will be like, "Hey, well, that's not right. Hey, mom, dad, they talking this other stuff, right? The issue is that oftentimes the homes aren't incubators of a healthy Black identity.
No, but even if you're doing, see, now the home, yeah, that statement is true, but you got to understand the home is a part of a community, right? So if we all have a church home and we're being taught similar morals, then we all follow those morals. But when you're in your home, like, hey, we do isheshe in my home. We, my daughter can't straighten her hair. You can't do
Mhm.
these things. And then when you get outside the home, everybody is going against that everywhere you look, right?
Right, and that means that you have to have the or internal fortitude to resist, like
No,
in
you
anything
can,
in life.
but to an impressionable children, you got four children. It's going to be very difficult to get an entire community of people to critical mass to be able to fight these things off. That's just
I,
very difficult to
I
do.
understand that. My daughter's 13. She's never had a desire to wear fake nails, fake hair, straighten hair, anything like that. I got all of that. It's
I
still
mean, but
going.
I've had battles with it. Like I said, she, like I've had to do, they straighten her hair. As soon as I got her back, I had to dump water in her hair and tell them, hey, every time you do this, you straighten my daughter's hair, we're going to do the ice bucket challenge the next day. So you can waste your money if you want. But just because I'm doing that does not mean that the larger society is not having an impact on her. Like you don't,
I
how do you
understand that.
really know
And,
your
and
daughter
what
doesn't
that
want to
speaks
straighten her hair?
to
How do you know
is
that?
as a parent, you control the process, but you don't control the result. See, we have to understand, people, that nothing in life, nothing that we do as a people is foolproof. Nothing. Bulletproof vests aren't even fully bulletproof. Nothing is going to be a panacea.
But when you start talking about a larger community, it's going to be very difficult for everybody to just go against the grain of society, man.
I'm not even concerned with everybody doing that. I'm concerned with what people are doing in their homes.
Hmm.
That's what I'm concerned with.
We're in a tough situation,
So
man.
when
Put it
people
like
start talking that Black stuff, what you doing in your household? That's what I want to know.
right.
Anyone who this isn't hyperbole for YouTube. People who know me said, "Really, okay, brother, right. Sister, okay. What y'all doing in the house with those kiddos? Well, how are you living your daily life,
Right.
huh? Seriously, that anyone who knows me, they're like, yeah, but he's like that. He's been like that since he was a young man. before he had facial hair, before he had all the muscles, before he had all the degrees. That's who he is.
Right.
Yeah. Before we get all into that, and we need to what you doing at home, because that's how I know you serious.
Mm-hmm.
No one's watching, right? So ain't no grandstanding in the house, right? Once again, if we talk about character, what you do when no one is watching. People who know me, I live, breathe, and sleep this shit. Literally, not figuratively. Literally.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I look at. I don't want to hear community. I want to hear building an institution. What you doing in the goddamn house?
And I agree with you, but you
Because
know, it
most of
just
these folks, they
that's
talking
a
this,
different fight.
but behind closed doors, they're dope sniffing communists that like little boys.
Yeah, but that's a different fight. And like I said, I mean, I still engage in these discussions in philosophy, but I definitely realize it's two different things. It's your circle of concern, and then there's your circle of influence. And your circle of a concern can be huge. You know, you could be concerned about the entire black world, right?
Right.
But your circle of influence might be, you know, your cousin, your two best friends, and your family at home. You know what I mean? Your mother and father. So you definitely want to put your focus in your circle of influence, you know, and the more you'll do that, the more your circle of influence will expand. And I, you know, I had to realize that because with a lot of this conscious stuff, like you said, we worried about, oh, black people everywhere in Zimbabwe, they doing this and this and this. And you worry about a bunch of stuff you can't really do much about. Now it's good to know and be politically
Yes.
to understand, but you know,
Absolutely.
you definitely got to put most of your energy within your circle of influence. Damn near all of it, really. You know.
Absolutely. So
And
listen, I
manage
appreciate you.
expectations.
I appreciate you, brother. It's past 12 here on the East Coast, so I'm gonna have to call it a night. But once again, if you haven't, please go on to Medium. The link is there. Subscribe to my Medium page. You'll get weekly updates, emails on, of course, my publications. My goal is to become a partner on Medium. So if you can, please do that. Until next time, y'all know what to do. Always bet on Black. Peace.
Peace. Mm-hmm.